40th anniversary of the Cheyenne Frontier Days Old West Museum Western Art Show and Sale. We are celebrating the beauty of the American West with your art, and we are so pleased. This year's show is gorgeous. Thank you all for all of your hard work and sending all of your stuff in, and it has just been a joy to see and to prep this show and show it to the public, and we couldn't be more excited. So warm Wyoming welcome to you all, and to everybody at home. We're very excited. We're ready for a huge sale night, and we hope it will be great. So here we go. Let's go. First, we're going to take a look at Matt Wolf, and unfortunately he can't be here, but hopefully I can figure out how this reversing the camera and stuff works. So hope everybody has some patience with this new technology that we're all kind of trying to get used to. So let's go into the show.
No.
So here we go, and here's Matt Wolf, and his pieces are beautiful again this year, and we want to thank him for being in the show, and hope that he's doing well in Utah, and we miss him very much. And who's on deck next, Cameron?
Well, on deck next is going to be Abigail McBride.
Oh, Abigail McBride. I guess I am going to do that. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Mike Castle. I am the curator and assistant director at the Cheyenne Frontier Days Old West Museum. And I am very pleased to be with you tonight with some absolutely magnificent artwork. And tonight I have the pleasure of introducing Abigail McBride and her work. So let me turn the camera around. And if Abigail is there, very nice to see you with us today.
Hi.
Hi. Well, if you can,
Hi,
Abigail,
Mike.
please.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, guys. So, Abigail, since you're on the deck, please, can you tell us a little bit about your art? It is absolutely wonderful.
Oh, thank you. I paint on location. So if I am painting it, usually I was standing there experiencing it live. And I feel like that does infuse the work with a special energy. That barn painting that you're homing in on is my family's farm, and that's the back wall is collapsing, and so I loved it, even though we were there looking at it, having a discussion about, oh, will we fix it or will we just rip this part of the barn off? And I loved how the white rod felt like it was like a bone supporting the barn, and the uniqueness of that big organic wave of the wall as it's collapsing, I found really exciting, probably because I'm not the one who has to fix it. But I love painting that barn. It's one of my favorite subjects. This is a basket of onions, and I painted it specifically for this show. And I was casting around my house for things to paint. And we had, at the beginning of the quarantine, we bought a lot of food, and then more than we would normally. And then we couldn't get through it all. And these onions started sprouting right in the pantry. And they were just so beautiful in their sprouting. And so I saved them and set them up in my studio, and I love the resilience of plants, and I find a lot of inspiration in that. And then this is, well, that's another still life that I painted more specifically for that show. That's one of the same onions that's in the basket. And so when I was done with the onion painting, I wasn't done painting the blooming, sprouting onion. So I set that up as in right next to my kitchen sink. And it's actually on my palette box, where I have a box where I carry one of my big handheld palettes. But, and originally I was not going to show the edge of the palette box, but then as the painting continued in its design journey, I started like zooming a little bit away and ended up adding the box in, and I felt like it framed it. And I'm a big fan of splitting the rectangle with these angular lines. But I have a lot of personal symbolism that I infuse sometimes into the paintings, but I give that description about those things in the descriptions that I wrote for each painting.
And then about this wonderful last piece that I zoomed away from a little bit too fast early. This is wonderful too.
Well, I was visiting a friend who lives on this lake, and it had been a really stormy day. And you know how beautiful storm clouds are when they're in the distance, you know, and they're moving away. And it was, the sun was breaking out, but the sun is entirely behind the tree. And so the light is blasting through the tree and sort of lighting it up, almost making it look like it was on fire. It's a very brief kind of a light effect. So I was painting like the wind there, and yeah, it was great, because I love that kind of feeling where there's something special that's somewhat hidden behind something else. And this is where, you know, the sun burning through that tree, it's being blocked by the tree, and yet that somehow makes it even more beautiful.
That's absolutely wonderful, Abigail. Thank you very much. I wish you the best of luck in the show this afternoon.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Cameron, who's next?
Well, up next, we have a fan favorite, Ann Hansen.
All right. Hello, Ann. How are you today?
I'm good.
Well, these are wonderful pieces. I just want to draw back and have everybody take a look at what we're going to be talking about. These are wonderful pieces. You have so much personality in your work. Let's go ahead and start with this wonderful piece.
I love painting cowgirls. They're kind of to me, the unsung heroes of the West. And I love to show their personalities. And this little gal she's the real deal. And it's just really fun trying to get their personalities in a painting about them. So it's just fun. I love painting people.
Well, let's stay with people for a second. That's a wonderful piece with Wind in My Hair, a beautiful piece, but you can see the personality in the next two pieces, of course, too.
Well, every year I go to Crow Fair up in Hardin, Montana, and I am fascinated by the Native American regalia, and it's evolved. You know, it's not like old-timey Native Americans. They put their own spin and their own personalities as they modernize their regalia, and I love the faces and catching these kids, especially being kids, you know, but being proud of their heritage. It's just a fun thing to do, and the colors especially are so much fun to paint.
Well, let's talk about this one little girl that I have down here. This is a wonderful piece. You said about modernizing their clothing and also reflecting their character. How about this piece?
Well, I've painted this little gal quite a few times because she has got so much personality. And every year they have 3 days of parade, and every day her outfit changes. And she wears a different outfit. And it is so much fun to see how they put these things together. And it's Native American, but there's so much individuality, and the colors are absolutely awesome. The video does not do the colors justice.
No, it doesn't. I'm really pleased to be sitting right next to it. It's wonderful to behold. How about this? This is a little different. It's not a person's picture. It's not people, but this also must have a story behind it.
Well, another thing that I really love is horses, and I've painted them a lot. And I have, you know, being a mom, I have a personal affinity for this type of mother-child scene. And it just, when I saw this, it really touched my heart, and I just had to paint it.
Absolutely marvelous. All right, well, Ann, thank you very much. Good luck again to you for this wonderful event this evening.
Thank you.
All right, Cameron, who's next?
Up next, we have Don Weller.
All right. Don Weller. And Carmen, if you would like to take care of him, he's right over here.
There he is.
Thank you, Mike. Great job with Anne
Thank you.
and Abigail. That was so fun. So, Don, how are you tonight?
Old and bitter, thank you. How are you guys? Y'all were
We are
great.
good. Thank
Yeah,
you
you
so
were
much for
great.
joining us. So
Well,
tell
this
us
is
about
a
your
very
book.
big experiment. It's going to be fun.
Right, and I want to remind everybody at home to call us and buy these beautiful pieces at 778-7289. So Don, tell us about what inspires you to make these.
Well, I have a friend that's a wildlife photographer, and he said, come with me, we'll go find the wild horses. And I said, sure. And then he got to where they are. He said, you know, we moved
So
to-
that is an exciting sound. That means something has sold.
Somebody bought something. That's fantastic.
Yeah, so sorry to interrupt you, but please continue.
Well, that's all right. We went to West Desert in Utah and saw the wild horses. Now these guys, this guy that you're looking at here, the top guy is riding a horse, starting a horse in a rope hackamore. And it was kind of fun because the hackamore is so homemade and so trashy looking. And in California, the horsemen are so proud of their hackamores with bow saddles and all that. So that's what attracted me to this. And we were waiting, hoping that horse would buck, but it didn't. But it loped around, and he had a nice ride, I guess. It's a watercolor. The one below is a branding in Rifle, Colorado, or near Rifle. And this is the guy, I think he's from out of state. He's from California, I think. But he was helping them. Friends of ours were with their cattle. So that's what that is. It's a kind of a big painting for me, big, tall painting. I don't know
Well, they are just beautiful. And the detail you're able to capture with watercolor is unbelievable.
Well, thanks. There's areas of detail and then a lot of other areas that are rather abstract in some way or another. But it's a fun medium, and I do a lot of watercolor. During the pandemic, I'm trying to do some oils too, just for something different. But these are all watercolors.
Well, we'll be excited to see that work too next year.
Maybe. We'll see.
All right. Well, thank you, Cameron. Who's next?
Up next, we have Sarah Woods.
Sarah Woods.
You can leave me up for a minute.
All right. Sarah, how are you tonight?
Thank you. How are you guys?
We are great. We have a whole bank of volunteers ready to stand by. I've heard a lot of buzz about your sweet birds here. So let's get these suckers sold.
All right, let's do
Can't
it.
hear you. What?
So anything,
Yeah.
what inspires you to do these
I don't know if
beautiful
it's gonna work. I haven't
landscapes?
tried it.
Well, I have been a wildlife artist.
I haven't tried it yet. It
my
might
life,
not work. And all
35 years.
well.
And being a wildlife artist, I've done lots of big game, and because I'm from Wyoming originally, and I live in a real remote part of Colorado right now. So big game is around me all the time. But one thing that I've noticed is that I'm drawn to the birds that I see in my bird houses and bird feeder. And it's just a little bit of a quieter, but more continual presence of wildlife that we have in our lives. So for me, it's been a great, just a great way for me to give people a touch of wildlife that they all enjoy and sometimes aren't at their feeders, but that they know of and love. I've done a lot with this, you know, obviously it lends itself to a vertical format, which is kind of nice because people collect a lot of artwork over the years. I find this myself. You have less room for the big, huge paintings, but these paintings are kind of a nice little size that would fit in lots of different places and just kind of bring the touch of the outdoors inside for people. So that's, I was a watercolorist years ago, just like Don, but I've been painting oil now for about 18 years.
Wow, what a lovely career you've had.
Yeah,
And such joy you bring to people's homes.
Thank you.
Just want to show off. A river runs through it here.
And that's kind of just a compilation of a lot of different rivers that I've visited and been near and enjoying kind of what a river does, which is that the flow of the water makes you feel that that it's taking you somewhere wonderful and you're in the headwaters here. So, you know, as the water runs down, it's the lifeblood of America, but it's also what we all enjoy when we live high up in the mountains. We're lucky that we get to be in the headwaters in the Rocky Mountains. So that river doesn't have an exact place. It's just kind of a group of different places that I've put together into that river.
It's just fantastic. Thank you for sharing that, Sarah. Cameron, who's next?
Up next, we have Robert McFarland.
Cameron, it's really convenient how you put everything right next to each other for me.
I really attempted to make it as easy as I possibly could.
You're a good buddy, let me tell you. So, Robert, good evening. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well, thank you. I'm so excited to be showing your work this evening.
Great. I'm excited to be here.
Great. So tell me about these sweet farmhouses.
Well, I'm pretty much drawn in my subject matter to scenes of vanishing America. As you can see, like old buildings, old houses, things that have a feeling of nostalgia. And I don't know, I'm just kind of, when I was a kid, I grew up in an area with a lot of abandoned houses and I just loved them and I still love them. And I just like the feeling it gives me. So that's kind of what I focus on painting quite a bit. And I throw a few other things in there also.
Well, you can really see that emotion come through in this work.
No, thank you. Yeah, these are scenes of an area here on the Wasatch Front in Utah where I live. Just some rural scenes. I've got one up here. It's just a beautiful area. Up in a small town called Francis, up in the Wasatch back. Actually, both of these scenes are from that same general area. The cattle and the cattle ranch and the river running through the fields there. Yeah. One thing that's unusual maybe about my watercolors is they are framed without glass. They're varnished and totally archival. And I've done that for many years. I'm certainly not the first person to have done that, but I kind of consider myself a pioneer in that. But it's worked out very well for me.
Well, they certainly are beautiful here in the gallery. And I want to remind people listening at home to call 778-7289. Make that cowbell ring. Cameron, who's next?
Let's see here. Next, we have Susie Hyer. Yep.
I think I'm unmuted, but I can't hear you. Cameron, are you able, do you hear me?
Yes.
Oh.
we can hear you.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think they were just looking for the piece.
Yeah, sorry, Susie. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's so good to see you. I'm sorry we're not in person, but seeing you on the screen is just as good.
Yeah, fun anyway, right?
Mhm. So what would you like to talk about first?
Well, I think I want to talk about the boots. Can you put the boots up? See, now I can't see that. Why can't I see that? I'm looking at myself. That's horrifying. I want to see the work. Thank you. Yeah, if you can like go in on that closer without the frame even. These are my fancy dancing boots, and I'm kind of fascinated with boots these days. I want to do a whole series of them because there's something about in terms of the West, you know, I mean, we wear cowboy boots. We wear them to work. We wear them to dance. We wear them for everything. And one of the things I keep thinking about is our boots have been all over the planet, you know, not necessarily in a good way. Drilling and fracking and the human presence, you know, we've stomped the earth quite a bit. But in this painting, I really wanted to celebrate more the other side of that. These are the boots I dance in, and dancing on the earth. You know, the native peoples have always had dances to celebrate our connection with the earth, and so these boots represent for me, you know, both sides of the coin, the positive and the negative side of it. You know, we work in our boots. We just, yeah, we're not living lightly on the planet these days. So I like the idea of the boots and our feet being able to also celebrate the fact that we live and work on this planet, you know. So I've actually painted a number of cowboy boot paintings now. I'm not sure how they're received, but I know I'm enjoying doing it and
Well, the detail is beautiful, and I can't wait to see you dance next year at our 125th celebration. So
I'll do it. And the buffalo skull, you know, both of these pieces, the buffalo skull too. I wanted to do something for this show that was iconic Western. I mean, since it's a Western show, duh, it was a no-brainer. So, but I'm having fun doing the sort of abstract backgrounds to these things. The buffalo skull has a lot of meaning for me personally that I'm not sure I want to go into, but it's such an iconic symbol of the West, and so I thought that this painting and the other one do specifically for this show. The other two paintings, I mean, I'm generally known for my landscape work, so I wanted to have some of those pieces too. The Teton trilogy, if you can go in on that, those three pieces were done in plein air, and then tweaked in the studio during a trip to Jackson. And I know the middle one is at that Oxbow turnout in the park. My internet connection, it's telling me, is unstable, probably similar to my state of mind. But yeah, I thought it'd be fun to put those three paintings from that trip together, and then I tweaked them in the studio and put them all in one frame. So I'm hoping people will relate to that.
that's a beautiful representation of Jackson. Thank you, Susie.
Thank you. Thank you. And the other pieces is of the cows, you know, classic Western. That was actually from the backside of Crested Butte. Not that it really matters where it is, but there's a farm back on the road to Brush Creek, and there's always cows on the road when you're trying to drive that road. So these guys were just sort of in the sun. They were kind of backlit, and I thought that would be a fun thing to paint.
That is fun, and it's experience we all have had at least once in Wyoming.
Oh,
So,
definitely.
so I love it. I just love it. Thank you so much, Susie. Cameron, who's next?
So Susan Bell just joined us, and so Mike is going to take us over to Susan's work.
All right. Well, Susan, I'm very glad you're here for us tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, the pieces that we're about to present to you really represent some wonderful pictures of animals, livestock, and wildlife. Well, Susan, welcome to this CFD Western Art Show for 2019. And let's start, if we can, with this wonderful picture of this meadowlark.
Hi, how are you guys tonight? This is really cool that you're doing this. So I live in a rural part of Colorado, and the field, one of these great big ranch fields that's right on the road by my house, has sunflowers, and the meadowlarks are my favorite sound, really. My very favorite sound. It's like spring coming. And so you hear them really more than you see them, but when the sunflowers start blooming, you start seeing them. And you also see the goldfinches as well. So that little guy was in that field, and I was able to get some good photographs of him.
He's wonderful. I do like the sound of meadowlarks myself. And so this is a wonderful piece capturing a beautiful sunny day. And you can almost hear him singing. It's wonderful.
I know. I'd like, if anyone knows how to do it, I'd like to have a motion detected sound bite behind the painting so that as you walk by, you hear it. That'd be the greatest thing.
That is absolutely marvelous. Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. It is possible. I know how.
I know it's possible. I just don't know how to do it.
Absolutely. Technical difficulties with it too, I'm sure. Well, this is wonderful. These two pieces that we have here in the middle, so I'll back up so I can show them to both people. You had an interesting way of doing this. These are both oil and, let's see, they're both oils. Well, actually, they're oil and gold leaf. And actually, I'm talking about the one at the top, aren't I?
Yes, so the one at the top, I painted live in plein air at the National Western Stock Show in Denver. So it's really a great place to paint because the animals are in pens and they can't go too far. So you can really just set up and paint and you know, normally in a ranch setting, they'd go away. So I painted these last January, and then it's cold, you know, in January. So I don't paint the background. I don't bother with it because the animals are moving and it's kind of hard to get them anyway. So I just really focus on the animals, and it's great because you just see color, you see personality, you see conformation, stuff that you would never get from a photograph. And then after they're dry, and they've been dried for quite a long time, then I apply the gold leaf background, which gives it sort of a contemporary look. But it also, what it does is in the context of a home where the light changes throughout the day, the painting really moves and changes as well throughout the day because of the light source coming in the house. So it's really, those are really fun for me to do. I really like doing the plein air animals.
Oh, speaking of plein air animals, those guys, like you said, they're kind of a captive audience. They stayed in one place. How in the world did you capture this?
Okay, so I was going to visit a friend in the mountains, and I had, you know, my little GPS map, my phone, my iPhone map, and I got into the mountains, and all of a sudden it failed. So I'm sort of driving around going, where is she, where is she? And I got lost. And I found this herd of buffalo, and there was a white bison in the herd, which I was like shocked. I've seen photos of them. Actually, they had 2 white bison in this herd. So it was a great, great mistake to get lost that day. And I was able to get a little plein air painting of them and some photographs. And then I did this bigger painting from my little painting and my photographs. So that was really a cool mistake.
That's fascinating. I mean, that's kind of neat. That is what you call serendipity.
Exactly, exactly.
Oh, that's perfect. Well, actually, the next piece I've been looking at, and I know that a lot of us have comments on, I really have to say, I feel for this guy. Can you tell us what the title of this piece is?
This is called Not Tonight, Honey. And you know, there's a herd of elk that sort of comes and goes around our house, and I was watching, every time I see him, I pull over, and you can't really quite get to them, but you can see them. They're on a ranch that you can't quite get to, but you can see them from the road. And this one day last fall, I stopped and I was watching him and taking photographs of him, and there was probably about 3 or 4 bulls in the herd, And all the cows, they just wanted to take a nap. They were just trying to lay down and take a nap. And all the bulls were just harassing them and running around. And it was just really, really funny and cool to watch. Really great to be able to witness something like that. So that's what inspired this piece.
So you do photography and you catch these moments, or is this something that you memorize and paint later?
Well, I sort of memorized it, but I also got some photographs of it. So I put it together, and I think in this particular piece, I had done plein air of the landscape before, and you can see the cows in the background. Can you see the cows sort of like a third back in the background? So that's what most of the cows were doing and trying to do. So I got them like that and got a little plein air piece. But with most of my work, that's what I do. I get a small plein air piece if I happen to have my paint kit with me, which I usually do. And then I'll take photographs, and then I'll make a larger painting with the little painting and the photographs, which helps a lot to have the plein air painting.
That's fantastic. You captured a great mood in every last one of your paintings. Thank you very much, Susan.
Thank you. The show looks great, you guys. Congratulations to you.
Thank you very much. All right, Cameron, who's next?
Well, up next, Mike, we have Cindy Long. But as you travel over to Cindy Long,
Oh, Cindy Long.
You're 6 feet apart.
Oh, yeah.
I have Carrie show everyone the phone bank that we have going on right now.
All right, let me go over to Cindy Long. Here she is. Hello, Cindy. How are you today?
Hi, fine, Mike. How are you doing tonight?
I am absolutely wonderful. Thank you for joining us tonight. I have to say, it's unusual to see pencils in the show, and I am always grateful to see your stuff inside our show every year. And these are a remarkable selection of pictures that you've given to us with the young ladies. I'm trying to get past the glass that's there to protect the artwork.
That's always a challenge.
Yeah, please go ahead and give us an idea of what we're looking at here, please.
Okay, well, these two both are graphite, which is my preferred medium. And I'm often asked if they are real people, and the answer is yes, they are. It all starts with a photo session where I try to capture, just not their likenesses, but their personality in my reference material. And hopefully something else going on, a little story or a certain emotion or play of light, like in this one, or all of the above. And so I take it from there, but that's probably the first step, is the photography to try to capture the personalities, and then I work from the photographs.
I love how you capture the pearls in her hair. That's absolutely amazing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. She was an interesting character. She was pretty serious and just had a certain look about her that was intriguing. And probably the reason I chose that photo or that particular look to go with on her was the dark and the light on her face. I thought kind of exemplified her countenance of seriousness and the general mood that she seemed to have.
Very nice. Well, how about this young lady down here?
All I'm seeing is myself right now. Oh, thank you. Yeah, again, it's kind of nice having those two hanging together. This little girl lived near us in Texas, and she, had a different type of demeanor, more quiet, more pensive, a certain sweetness about her. But she particularly liked to wear this black hat. And so I titled this one Black Hat Sarah, kind of like an outlaw or something like that. But I hoped in this one to capture her sweetness and kind of her milder temperament as compared to the one above. I like working in the graphite because I can get the detail that I enjoy with it.
Well, those are wonderful pieces. Tell us about these two. This is not quite what you were talking about, doing something entirely different with this first piece right here on the top.
Right. I decided on this one just to experiment a little. I did the entire drawing in charcoal and decided that I would like to add just a touch of color. I've been experimenting with that lately, trying to make them look more like old photographs. that have like the 10 types that have been hand tinted. And this one I went just a step further and added even more color. And so I did the entire drawing in charcoal. And then I went back with pastels and laid in the color that you see with pastels. And again, I enjoyed the play of light on his face. Again, he is a real person. A lot of artists know you can go sometimes or find reenactors who will dress in period costumes or outfits, I should say. And so I was trying to kind of get the timelessness that this could have been anytime. It could be modern day or even more likely sometime in the past. And both with the color and with his apparel and just his kind of very stern, down to business look. He's fun to draw. I've drawn him once before in graphite, and he had a great look about him.
Absolutely. Yeah, the eyes are piercing. They can look at you right through time.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And how about this young lady? This is also very different. You have an animal in this one.
Right. We were doing the photo shoot and this kitten came by and she just naturally scooped her up. And I enjoyed this one because they immediately, took a liking to each other, were making eye contact. I like the softness of this one and the mood of them getting to know each other, looking into each other's eyes, just the softness. Kind of a challenge with the cat having stripes and the shirt having stripes. I thought that kind of made it unique as well. But yes, I've included some animals in some of my more recent drawings because people like to see those, and I do too. It's just not always what happens, during a session. I just got really lucky on this one.
Very good. Beautiful work. All right.
Well, thank you.
Cindy, thank you very much. All right, Cameron, who's next?
Up next, we have Lisa Gordon.
Lisa Gordon. Okay. And as Carmen's walking up to get Lisa Gordon, I'd like to remind everybody and the people who are watching at home that you can purchase and participate in the CFD Art Show by going to cfdartshow.com.
So Cameron, I am going to go over to Lisa in just a second, but I wanted to remind everybody at home, just like Michael did, go ahead and make your purchases at cfdartshow.com or call 778-7289. And I want to show you our volunteers standing by, ready to take your call. We have Bobby, Megan, Chris, Catherine, Scott, Brianna, Harvey, Linda, and Eric. Thank you to everybody for helping us tonight. And be sure to call and make that cowbell ring. All right, Lisa, you have such fun pieces that I have really enjoyed looking at.
I thank you. Thank you very much.
I know I have a lot of interest in Overlook here. He is so interesting, and I just love how he is positioned. Tell us a little bit about him or her.
Him. Oh, okay. Well, it can be whatever you like. But Overlook is a fun piece from my Grand Canyon series-esque. Anybody who rides knows, or that is fortunate enough to go out on trail rides, you can get to these precipices and look over the edge, and it's just stunning. Usually you're looking up and your horse is looking up. So this is kind of an image of it, maybe without the rider and what the horse might think. So he's looking over the edge. He's not stressed. He's just kind of happy to see that he doesn't have to do anything from there on. He can just enjoy the view. So
you can definitely tell that in his posture for sure.
Yeah, he's just a little, how we get up and we crawl up there.
Check it out.
And so that's what he's doing. But he's still very, very okay with the situation. One ear cocked back means he's listening to whatever's behind, one cocked forward, looking at what's going on. I love this piece. I have this piece in my house quite often. And the nice thing about it is it can fit in these kind of weird locations that may not fit a sculpture, may not fit a painting, but yet you can place this guy. I usually like him up a little high. So the horse is a little above eye level. For me, that's not very high because I'm only 5'1". So, so
Well, he is super. And you have some other fun pieces. What about walking boots? I just love the detail on his boots here.
Yeah, that's a fun piece. I actually, it's a second rendition of a walking boots. That's why you have walking boots. And the nice thing about these little guys is you can order them with custom boots in solid colors and or to fit the horse's coloring. So, you know, this one happens to be a bay. I've done palominos, you know, I've even done a couple of paints. And so it's a fun piece. When I first started thinking about doing this, I was like, oh man, it's gonna be too cute, but well, I like too cute. So
it's cute. Right. And I'd be remiss if I didn't show the sliding stop and bay portrait.
Bay portrait is a unique piece. I do a lot of portraits, and it's kind of funny to think of sculptors doing portraits, but this one actually from the angle looks a little goofy, but oh well. This one is a lot like my mare, very nice, kind of straight, formal head. And again, they can be ordered to match your own horse. I do quite a few portraits, so I wanted to put something like that in the show and show people what I can do. And down below is the sliding stop, which is in a series of 5 with one that's still kind of in the wings. This is a reiner. I'm doing a sliding stop. Again, I usually like to try to do things without the rider, showing more of the horse. It's what I'm interested in, not necessarily interested in riders. So this one is obviously a reiner doing its sliding stop. Right behind me, I have over the jump. I have an around the bend, which is a racehorse, and a barrel racing one, and a polo one. And I should have a dressage horse in the near future. So that's what I do.
Awesome. Thank you, Linda. Or Lisa, I'm so sorry. Lisa brings up a really good point. If you would like to get a commissioned piece, please call the art show coordinator, Cameron Green, at 307-778-7289. So, and thanks for the reminder on the area code. The area code here for all of Wyoming is 307. So again, the number to call and purchase your piece or to get a commissioned piece is 307-778-7289. All right, who's up next, Cameron?
Well, up next, we're moving over to the artisans, Carmen. We have Alexis Garrett and Annie Margarita up.
Maybe if I can flip my camera. All right. These artisan pieces are truly beautiful and one of a kind. Is Miss Lexie on the phone with us?
She is on the phone with us.
I just unmuted. Can you guys hear me okay?
I can. Lexie,
okay.
I have to tell you, this purse sold out like a hotcake.
That is so cool.
Again, I want to. It is so cool, and the detail is so beautiful. And I don't know if you can see on the video, but is this red part fur or?
It's just red hair on hide. It's cow. Yes.
It's very lovely. And so I just want to repeat what I said about Lisa Gordon. And I don't know how you feel about commission pieces, Lexie, but if somebody is interested in another bag such as this, are they welcome to call you?
Absolutely. We've had some really tons of fun lately with this new etching process that we're doing on the hide. So on the butter part of the hide, those are, we call them summer flowers. And they, the cool part is we've used a laser to actually kind of etch in our design on the leather to kind of give the leather an additional, just a kind of a beautiful texture. So.
Do you mind if I'm going to take it off and just showcase the back here? And did you also do that same laser process on the handle?
We did, and this is kind of the first time that we've ever done that. We actually ended up painting over the etching to actually get the color into the latigo. And so that's why it kind of has a bit of a shimmer of color. So we explored so much with this handbag, and man, we are so proud of it. The style is something that we've carried, that we just launched, gosh, maybe at the beginning of the year. It's called the baby duffel, but then we added the fringe, and we added kind of the I guess the 2 layers of fringe, the fringe on the sides, and then the fringe around the circular part of the handbag, just added fun. It's definitely, I don't know, I like to call these showpieces just because they are super, they are just so out of kind of the ordinary of just like a regular handbag. They're just very special. So we were excited.
It is very special, and in fact, I would call it a showstopper. It's very beautiful. So thank you, and thanks for being a first-year artisan with us. We certainly love your work, and we're so glad that you're here this year.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Welcome. Cameron, are we moving to Annie next?
Yes, we are moving right on to Annie.
So this is Annie Margarita's piece, Beauty and the Beast. And I'm not sure that my camera phone here is going to do it justice.
I think you should
going to
take
remove
it off
it.
the wall.
I think I will, because it is just a fantastic piece that is robust with detail. In fact, I love the iris and the butterfly here.
I have never used a butterfly like that before, and that actually holds the strap on. It's a keeper. But I like to make completely original cases. This one has a theme of a Wyoming stream with a beautiful Yellowstone cutthroat and a sculpin. And I love fishing up in Wyoming. You guys have it really good. But so I created this so that somebody from Wyoming could recognize all of those features. It's been made out of Herman oak leather, so it's definitely a heritage piece. All hand sewn, line padded, ready for your one-of-a-kind fly rod to go in there.
And the fly rod case is all, has wool in there. Is that true to protect your reel?
Mm-hmm. So you would take your reel off and put it in there so that it's very transportable. My clients put these on airplanes. You put it in the overhead, pull that out of the overhead, and watch everybody scream wanting to know where you got it.
That's right. Well, it is just a beautiful piece, and I'm sorry we couldn't get you to Wyoming to fish this year, but next year, fingers crossed.
Yes, you guys have some fabulous areas. I'm very jealous. I'm up in Oregon on the Mackenzie, a completely different atmosphere.
Well, here in Wyoming, we certainly take pride in our outdoor spaces and our access to public lands. So thank you for this beautiful piece.
Thank you. And, you know, fly fishermen don't get to keep the fish. We usually do catch and release, but this is a fish you can take home.
Good point. Good point. Thank you, Mike, for the assist. That was perfect.
Well, up next,
Cameron, what's up next?
Next, we have one of our new artists, Stephanie Hartshorn.
All right, as I'm getting back to all of my equipment, I would like to say first, Stephanie, welcome to the Cheyenne Frontier Days Western Art Show and Sale. It's wonderful to have you along.
Thank you. I'm really excited. I'm excited to experience my first year. It's a little different, but you guys are you're doing a great job. I want to say that really quickly. This is really impressive. So thank you for all you're doing over there.
Thank you. Well, this is wonderful. The pieces that we're going to be looking at with you, they're a little different than other things that we've seen today. A lot of this has to do with equipment or scenes that we see around the farm or the ranch.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a real love for farming and ranching and the story of it. That wasn't my life, but I've certainly gravitated to it. And the more ranchers and farmers the meet, the more I just fall in love with it. And what I strive to do is find ways to really give a sense of place to a spot and find the uniqueness in the story that's being told there. And there's generations that have worked this land or stewarded the land, and I just feel that I want to create these portraits. Often that ends up being, back behind a shed or in, it often becomes the equipment, it becomes the structures out there. So this piece that we're looking at right now is actually my brother-in-law's orchard. These were some old structures on the orchard. I think that orchard is probably a 4th generation running orchard over on the western slope of Colorado. I fall in love with the patina. Right there we've got so much character of the buildings and, the weather and the use. This one in particular, I loved walking back around the back, and I saw these tanks and the way the light was just kissing the side of it. And so something that I'm known for and I really strive for is just this variety and structure, and then the way that I'll weave things together, looking for an abstract pattern and also a visual journey is how I like to call it. So I really love the structure happening here. I'm also a little bit nerdy, so I like all of this equipment. There are fruit boxes back there and some, I can't remember what those canisters are in the background, but there's a tremendous amount happening in the back of that shadow, or in the shadow, in the back of that building.
Trying to get out of shadow so I can let people see this for themselves.
So you can move around it and then come into the foreground, into the light. So anyway, I really believe that tells a great story about working, the land versus always this picturesque. I mean, I find this beautiful, but
Wonderful.
Beautiful. Yep.
Yes, that reminds me of my father-in-law's dairy farm. He had something like that back in Missouri. So that's kind of a neat thing to see.
Exactly. And I hear this so often. It's like, oh, that reminds me of this, family member or this part of my childhood. And that's very meaningful to me that it was that.
How about this one? Now, this one speaks to somebody's childhood who's still there. Or is this a gentleman that's driving the tractor?
Well, I don't know much about this gentleman. This was a scene I saw as I was driving through the mountains just south of Denver. And I was struck with the light, so this is this painting is really about light and that low afternoon feel, you can hear the insects out there, you can smell this hay being baled and also just the mesmerizing sound to me of the machinery. So he's just kind of cruising along ever so slowly. And I just watched him for, I don't even know how long, I lost track of time. Just loved the way, again, the light is just grazing. He's a little bit backlit and it's just grazing this entire form. And it's a beautiful sculpture to me with a dramatic backdrop of the cool forest behind him.
Well, this other piece that we have up here, the last piece that we have, is also something that's obviously a study in light.
Yeah, it is. So this was my father-in-law's wheelbarrow. He had a property in Grand Junction, and he had a big shed down there with lots and lots of things accumulated over the years. And the patina on this piece is great. It doesn't have a tremendous amount of color, which is so lovely then to have that pop of turquoise back there. I love the spokes and the lines and this pattern that's happening. And I do really I get pretty excited about really intense light situations. So I get a wonderful dark pattern of shadow against this bright light. So this one is just fantastic with the lines and the movement as you, you know, go from one side to the other, and a layering of texture. And there's even a bit of wood. I paint on wood panels, and I believe this one has some bare wood that shows through, and I think that even, you know, brings even more to the piece. It's really nice.
Oh, what a nice detail. Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
It is wonderful to have you on the show. Welcome. I'm glad you could join us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. All right, Cameron, who's next?
Well, up next, we have a longtime show favorite in our show, Carrie Wild from Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and we're excited to have her back.
Absolutely. Well, anyway, very nice to hear from you again, Carrie. Welcome back. And this is quite different from what we were looking at last time. Look at the vibrancy of these colors.
Yeah. I love to play with color within my work. I've been madly in love with the West and Wyoming skies. So I try to really capture that and emulate that within my paintings. I like to play with a lot of space. Yep.
Do you use scenes that you capture around Jackson Hole? Or other places in
of
Wyoming?
course, the bison. We often even have bison in our yard. I'm lucky enough to live on the edge of Grand Teton National Park. My drive into my studio every day usually involves some sort of wildlife. So, and one of my favorite things to do is just to go out about 4 miles down the road is Antelope Flats and lots of bison. So I love just driving out into the middle of them and taking it all in. So, you know, they're making a lot of noise and they're kicking up dust, and usually the sun is setting and it just creates this really cool feeling. That's
very good.
what I go for.
How about this piece down here? This is a little different. The animals are a little more domestic, but still beautiful.
Right. Well, again, we're in Jackson. There's a lot of ranches and such around, but I love going out to Cody, out to McCullough Peaks, and photographing the wild horses out there. My husband and I actually recently did a camping trip where we just slept in the back of our vehicle out on the range and went to bed with horses not too far away and woke up with them not very far away either. So I love the presence of the animals on the landscape, whether it's exhilarating or calming. That's what I want to capture. So with the horses just standing off in the distance, whether it's a pasture or the desert, it gets me.
They're like ships on the sea.
They are, yeah. They make you happy.
Yeah, very serene. This is wild. I love this.
Yeah. So I'm well known for those colors. I love to reinvent them. One thing that I do with my work is I paint in lots and lots of layers. So those oranges, there's probably about 6 different colors of orange. I start in the background with a very thin layer, and I just let things happen. That will dry, and then I'll add another layer of orange and just work my way upwards. So it gives you this really glowy feel doing that. The other thing that it allows is when the painting is in a home or in its place, the light of the day actually will change the painting. So depending on if it's warm light or cool light or really bright, even lamp light from your table lamp in the evening, it allows that canvas that's in the background, as well as the gold leaf that I add on the top of the bison, to just really shine and capture that. And it's on its own personality based on the time of day. So the painting changes. So if you get really close there, if you can, to like the back of the bison, I work with the gold leaf because of the reflective qualities. I'll put that on, and then I paint back over the top of it and kind of wipe it off so that the gold takes on the texture of the canvas, but also what might be the texture of the bison's fur itself. So it's just kind of an added little surprise and interest to that. So.
Absolutely amazing. You can almost see the texture right here on this buffalo right away, even in the camera. That's very exciting. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Well, Carrie, thank you very much for joining us again. It is great
You're
to
very
see
welcome.
this
Thanks for having
vivid.
me.
Oh, it's wonderful to see it. Vivid and very eye-catching from
The
everywhere.
show
in the
looks
room.
amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Cameron, who is next?
Well, we're going to cut to Carmen real quick for a quick announcement.
Okay.
So I want everybody to know it's 7 p.m. It's time for the regular buy. So if you're waiting for that jump the gun period to be over, our volunteers are standing by to help you with your purchase. Don't forget to call 307-778-7289. We are here for you.
Governor Gordon, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for supporting the Cheyenne Frontier Days Old West Museum's Western Art Show and Sale on our 40th anniversary. And I'd like to present you with this gift.
Oh my gosh.
It's Home in Wyoming. It's from our vault, and it's by James Bourne from 1986. We hope you enjoy it, and thank you again for being such a supporter of our show and Western Legacy Way of Life.
Oh, well, thank you very much. My gosh, what a beautiful gift. You know, and you think about it, that art show has been going on for 40 years. 50,000 people from around the world all coming to enjoy and understand a little bit of Western culture and what that means. You know, my dad used to rope at Cheyenne Frontier Days, and I can remember coming to this art show and looking at the work that there. It's one of the premier art shows in the country. You know, there are only a few, and this one really has earned its place in everyone's memory. And you know, it's a darn shame, I guess, that there's no chance to have the CFD rodeo this year, but our legacy lives on, and this art show is such a critical part of that whole week, of that whole time, and of the West, just to give people a sense of our culture. This is just perfect. You know, I can remember our little cabin, the wood burning fire, and kind of coming in on a cold, snowy day, and just catches it all.
Well, thank you again. We really appreciate your support.
Well, thank you, and have a very successful art show.
All right, so up next, I'm sorry about this, we have Mike Beeman.
Hi, Mike. It's Carmen, your friendly neighbor. Fun fact about us, we live down the street from each other. I know that there's a lot of interest in blackberries here. Everybody just wants to pluck one from the bowl and taste their sweetness. And then I had a lot of good comments about flower power here and the magic of pastels. And then we have a slice of summer.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. Which one do you want to talk about first?
I don't know. They're all so good. I know you did a maker video on flower power. Is that right?
Right. Flower powers, you know, I work in pastels and oils, but generally pastels are done on a smoother surface, sometimes with a little bit of texture embedded into the paper. So what I've started doing is on this particular painting, did an underpainting that you'll see from the video on Facebook of an acrylic underpainting to build the texture up. Then I put layers of pumice on top of that, then start back in with my pastels. You know, over the years, and this is a process I teach in my workshops throughout the country, but it's a fun process, and it's something when you're, you know, trying to add a little more texture to your pastels and give it just a little bit of a different look. I enjoy, and I've always enjoyed painting still lifes, and more so flowers more in the last few years. I don't know why, I've just been really attracted to them, and they seem to be quite the challenge and fun to do.
Well, it's certainly very beautiful.
The blackberries, they're almost two different styles here. One's very impressionistic. This one's a little more representational. And Barbara and I, for years, we would, as we would travel around, we'd pick up different antiques and bring them back, and then I'd incorporate those into the painting. Here was kind of an interesting one with this old Pelusi scale and the texture of the old books, and then kind of contrasting that with some of the glass and the blackberries and the flowers. Kind of a different kind of challenge for me, but it was a fun piece to do. Very fun.
The texture of those old books is very cool.
So you can have texture in the way you paint something, or you can also have a different type of texture, as in flower power, where it looks like the paint's built up and almost gives you the impression of an oil painting. As you look at that closer, you'll see thicker applications of what appear to be paint or pastel.
It does have a layered effect. It's very beautiful. What about Foxy Lady? What's her story?
Foxy Lady, for years I did a lot of portrait work, figurative work, and when I got into pastels, I had done a lot of dog portraits, cats, and also do a lot of birds in pastel. But this particular one, when we first moved into the Bar X area, we had a family of foxes that lived just behind me. And many times they actually, I never believed this if someone had told me, but they jumped up over a 6-foot fence, would walk around the perimeter. We have a waterfall back there, and they kind of set their drink and walk along the perimeter of the yard and jump up back on the fence and sit there and look over the field. And I thought a fox for once would just be a lot of fun to do, trying to capture the personality through the expression. That was just a fun painting for me.
Can really see the curiosity there. I wish they would come back to the neighborhood.
Oh, I do too. I think there might be some. I hear them at night.
Oh,
this yeah, they're keeping me up at night. They're back there yakking. This one, been doing a lot of food studies and oils, and I thought it might be kind of fun to try this with the pastels. And this old jug came from our condo in Steamboat, and I was always trying to think of a way I could incorporate it into a painting. And I believe I had tried this once with a piece of watermelon, and although I liked the reds, I just didn't care for the reds and the apples, so changed it to the melon, and I think it provided a nice contrast with the texture of the surface of the jug to the softness of the melon.
we have an excitement here on the floor. More is selling.
That's good.
Yeah. So if you're interested in these Mike Beeman pieces, feel free to call 307-778-7289 or check it out on cfdartshow.com. What's next, Cameron?
Thank you, Carmen.
Thank you, Mike.
Well, Carmen, up next, I'm just going to turn around real quick to talk to Dan Young.
Oh, my favorite. Well, they're all my favorites. I don't want you to think that I play favorites. They're all my children.
No,
So
I
Dan
like
Young.
that. I'm good with that. Yeah.
Woohoo!
I'll
More
say
sales
you're
are
my
happening
favorite
tonight.
host,
This
Cameron.
is so exciting. So Dan, you have a really spectacular way with nightscapes. Tell me about this
I
one.
definitely enjoy painting nightscapes. I enjoy painting low light situations. I spend a lot of evenings and mornings before the sun comes up and after the sun goes down trying to figure this stuff out. So it's really a challenge for me that I continue to chase almost every day.
I just love the stars and the moon, how the moon shines on that snow. It's really beautiful. What about Dawn's turn?
That was a morning after we'd had a good rain, And I kind of try to plan ahead when I go after a painting like this. I knew we'd had a heavy rain the night before and then it would clear in the morning. So I had a pretty good idea that there would be some patterns in the fields from the rain from the evening before. So I was out there before sunrise just to kind of wait it out and see what happened. This is right as the sun's coming up, and you've only got about maybe 5 minutes before it changes. I definitely rearranged those water patterns in the foreground, but I really was into that exact moment, trying to get the feel of that scene.
I think you've captured that moment beautifully.
Well, thank you.
Over here on this side, we have July in the Snowy Range and Winter's Retreat.
Winter's Retreat is another local piece for me. Yeah, I love when you get those after the snow is started to melt off and you get those wonderful patterns. This is a field right across from me, and I've gone out there several times waiting for the snow to melt back. And I arrange and rearrange and redraw this thing countless times trying to get it to feel right, if you will, where I can play up the contrast between the dry field and the snow patches.
It looks fantastic. And July in the Snowy Range, you can just feel that it's cold and you need a jacket when you go to hike.
This was actually in July. One thing I'm always impressed, I've painted in the Snowy Range a lot. You can go up there in July, even into August, and there's still big snow patterns up there. I've been up there in July where there's still 10 and 12 foot drifts. And I just really love when you have that contrast of the big snow patches and the green starting to pop in the foreground. It's just hard to beat. And the best part of it is this is right off the road. I didn't have to walk 10 feet to paint this one.
Well, great. Thanks for being here tonight, Don.
Thank you.
Cameron, what's next?
Well, up next we have a Cheyenne, a local artist, Reneé Piskorski.
Reneé Piskorski, hello, how are you this afternoon?
Hi, Mike, I'm doing great. How are you?
I am doing absolutely wonderful. I have to tell you, when I was walking up to this piece, it looked like I was approaching old friends. As it is, let me explain. We actually have one of Renee's pieces as a museum purchase from 2012 called Thunder Beasts. That was buffalo as well. And it is wonderful to see these animals keep coming back, Reneé. These are absolutely gorgeous.
Oh, thanks. I love painting the action pieces with the buffalo. That one is a little different. I mean, the background colors, the dust and stuff, I threw in a little blue instead of the really hot colors. You can't really see it right now, but when you see it there in person. But anyway, that one was kind of a struggle at being a vertical. It's unframed, it's 24 by 48. So there was a lot of arranging and rearranging of the bison.
That's a fun piece. Yeah, you don't do a lot of vertical pieces. That's a really dynamic way to do the painting of the buffalo.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, this is fantastic. Well, we also have some other wonderful scenes. I really appreciate the way that you paint wildlife. And how about these guys? Of course, very familiar for those of us here in Southeast Wyoming.
You know, these guys are kind of hard to paint. You wouldn't realize, I mean, their legs are so tiny and they're not a big animal anyway, and it gave me an opportunity to paint rabbit brush and the sagebrush there. But, you know, this is a late summer painting and their attention is captured by something in the distance. So I wanted to do a little storytelling there, but that was a fun one too. I think you can feel the heat of the late summer and maybe the grasshoppers out there and whatever other insects, and not a lot of any other noise. No human noise is what I wanted.
Well, it's a wonderful piece. Yes, it does look like a lot of parts of Wyoming. Now, I love this next piece. A lot of people refer to this as Wyoming too, but it certainly is filled with noise. I love how you captured all the energy of these two characters?
Oh yeah, and the title, "Come at Me, Bro." I got the idea. I was west of town, up in the range, and you know there's different Indian paintbrush species that come out too, but they all have to. These are broadtail hummingbirds, and around this area we have broadtails and rufus, and once in a while some other ones. But anyway, they really defend their territory. And I have some in my yard right now, and they are defending their territory here as well, although I have all kinds of flowers and feeders for them. And it's crazy to watch them fly. They'll go clear up in the air, you know, I don't know, they'll fly up many feet in the air and fight and come flying back down, and it looks like they're going to hit the ground. They never do, thankfully, but anyway, you can hear them buzzing around up there, so I can always tell when they're there. And now they're back down a lower elevation before they head off to Mexico and different places.
Fantastic. Well, speaking of defending territory, if you're doing plein air when you're doing these pieces, you must have felt particularly threatened when you got approached by this guy.
Yeah. Well, there were marmots and these little pika. These were up in the bighorns. And I went to see the medicine wheel up there, but all these guys were out there, and you know, they're just busy as all get out, collecting hay, and they have their little hay piles. And many times other pika, when they're not looking, other pika will come and take their winter food. You know, they're stockpiling for winter. But anyway, that was a fun little painting, and I've done 3 or 4 of those recently. But they're just, these pika are just so fun to paint, and they're cute, and they bark at you, and it's like, oh, you know, really scary. But anyway, that's really a fun one.
Well, you're lucky to survive this encounter.
Oh yeah. Oh, and I did love painting moss and lichens on the rocks too. So I've done a few of those recently. For some reason, I just enjoy that.
Fantastic. These are fun to be with, Reneé. It's wonderful to have you back in the show.
Well, thank you.
All right. Well, Cameron, after Reneé, who do we have next?
Well, after Reneé, we have someone who I believe has multiple museum purchases in our collection, Gail Jones Sundell.
Gail Jones Sundell. Oh my goodness, yes. And Carmen, she's yours.
Thank you, Mike. Just a lot of activity happening on the sales floor that I was very excited about. Where am I supposed to be?
You're right here.
Oh, with Gail. There's actually, let me first digress and say, thanks, Harvey. He's been putting up sales stickers all evening. So Gail, there has been a lot of buzz about all of your beautiful pieces. And in particular, I've heard a lot of compliments about Unconditional Love.
This one is, you probably are familiar with the Pueblo storytellers, you know, the little mamacitas with little children sitting on their laps. And this is my version of the Pueblo storyteller. But this is a personification of unconditional love. And she's made out of limestone, and each of the children are made out of a different color of alabaster. And it kind of represents the 4 different directions of the world. And she loves them all the same. And they're all equal in her eyes.
What a great story. What was your favorite piece that you sent in this year?
Unconditional love. It was a lot of fun, a lot of work.
Well, and
well,
you can
also,
definitely see all the love you put in there. Yeah.
Thanks. limestone's a bit harder than alabaster, and so is marble. And this bear is made out of marble, and it was a fun challenge to get it to shine. And it is a representation of the mother bear. A lot of Native American tribes consider the bear as a mother because they're such good mothers. And this one, she has actually adopted 2 little human children. And so that's why it's called the adoption.
Lovely. And then you have Prairie Flower, which is already sold. Congratulations.
Thank you. That's something new and different this year.
Very exciting. And then you have Jingle Bell.
So the jingle dress dance originated with the Ojibwe in, like the early 1920s. And you can see them at the Cheyenne Frontier Days Indian Village. And this is just kind of musing that she's standing there waiting for her competition. But it shows the strength of women, and it celebrates how important they are to our world. And I think I probably spent as much time trying to carve those little jingle bells as the real jingle bell dances. I know it takes hours and hours and hours of forming the little bells and so forth in reality, but it took a long time to carve those little bells in alabaster.
Well, the details of her dress are just beautiful.
Well, it was.
Thank you, Gail.
Thank you.
Have a great night. Cameron, who's next?
After Gail, we have one of our new artists that people are very excited about this year, Colt Idle.
Welcome, Colt. A very happy CFD welcome to you.
Hi, thanks very much for having me. I'm excited to be a part of the show this year.
Well, Colt, this is Mike Castle again. I love the pieces that you have here, lots of color, and let's start with this one. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right,
Let's see. Right. All right, so this piece, Azura, the 11 by 14, this is kind of fun, this foil of warmth versus cool. Always kind of tricky to make work in a harmonizing way. The clouds here, one interesting thing about this piece is that the sky there, that blue is purely one color blue plus white and nothing else. And so it becomes really delicate. It's an exercise in value control and edge work and brush work to kind of pull off those clouds. Anytime I seem to add any other colors in, the clouds lose this purity. So this was a fun piece to have that warm against that cool backdrop.
Fantastic. So you capture a lot with light as well, both in the dark, but also, let's go ahead and contrast that with this piece that you have right here.
Sure. So this is a South Dakota sunset. I'm up here in Montana, but I've done the artist ride a handful of times on the Cheyenne River in South Dakota, and a lot of folks that have seen this piece have straightforwardly asked, "Is this a South Dakota sunset?" Which it is, and I've kind of kept it in my back pocket and used it in a handful of paintings in different ways throughout the years. But to pull off this light, it's so much contrast. I always, in every piece, try to get darkest dark and a lightest light in there. And really, to pull off light, you really need your dark value anchors in there.
That is really a remarkable sunset. So it's not called Dakota Sunset. It's called Safe Haven, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
I don't think that this piece, it doesn't need to be married to any specific region. There's no, landmarks that would tie it into one specific region. I think that a lot of people have felt this effect there in the, in the West, all over that have felt this effect where it could, pull on their heartstrings a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, pulling on heartstrings in a different way, aside from light and nostalgia, here's this wonderful piece that you have right here.
This piece, When the Rooster Calls, this is shot up here in north central Montana. And the light here, I was really nervous about trying to paint in the breath of that main cow. I wanted that early morning cold feel. And here in Montana, I'd imagine same as Wyoming, it doesn't matter what time of year it is, it's cold in the morning. And this, when you seeing the breath, a little bit of snow in the back, I really wanted to focus on this main cow and get that nice, exciting rim light. In that area, I'd use a lot of palette knife, use really heavy impasto paint in those lit areas, little thinner paint in the darker areas. But this piece, one key thing for me was really trying to figure out that breath. And so I hope it translates all right, because I had to cut out a lot of that secondary cow's face with this breath. So hopefully it reads as a warm breath getting hit by direct sunlight.
It is a remarkable effect. I definitely know mornings like that. I think most of them happen during Frontier Days.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful piece. How about this one? This is also kind of a transition away from the Native American and the cattle, but this kind of is a wonderful thing. It captures a lot of what we've already seen.
Well, thank you. My wife helped me name this one, and the name really makes the piece in this. She called it, therefore I called it, Once in a Blue Moon. And this barn, again, in north central Montana, had enough time and weather that made it a very nice focal point to a painting. And then you get the rolling clouds passing by that we see left and right, but very rarely you get that one moment a day that's there for a second where the light hits it just right. You get the whole composition and this pleasant scene coming together. The non-lit moon was actually an afterthought when I was working on this painting. I said, I've got a lot of negative space in this sky that I've got to figure out. Clearly, I've got to put a moon in there, but I did want a warm moon to compete with the clouds. And so you get this kind of soft, cool moon, and it does have a bluish effect. So the title, Once in a Blue Moon, is literal, but it also fits the mood. It's one of those moments that, you know, we don't see every day.
That's true. Those clouds are just absolutely gorgeous. Wonderful composition. And congratulations again.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me.
Certainly. A real pleasure. Welcome. We hope to see you again. All right, Cameron, who's next?
Well, I think before we move on to the next artist, I just want to point out that Colt, you just made your first Shine Frontiers Old West medal right there. So you actually made 2 sets tonight, so congratulations.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And next we have David. I know you're probably going to kill us for butchering your last name, but please correct us when you come on. David Cancelanes.
Hey, that was pretty good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Absolutely. Welcome,
Oh,
David.
that was great.
It's nice to have you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's Santillanes. It's Spanish.
Excellent. Well, Mr. Santillanes, this is a wonderful capture of some wonderful scenery in the mountains.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I think the one commonality I think in all of my work is probably atmosphere, and it's what draws me to scenes like this in the mountains. Just that bigness, that space. It's one of the things that we have out west that inspires me to paint.
Well, this piece is remarkable, but when you say you're trying to capture space, I was really struck by this piece from across the room. Talk about space. This is amazing.
And there's really no better place to capture atmosphere than Grand Canyon. You have miles and miles of it. It's so much fun to paint there. And, speaking of bigness, there's, the canyon exudes it. And one of the ways that I tried to recreate that feeling is with the horse and rider coming up the canyon. It makes it feel even bigger.
It really does. It sets it off absolutely amazing and really highlights the distance.
Yeah, and the story of that, I actually, during the Grand Canyon plein air event, a couple of artists were asked to walk down to the bottom of the canyon and paint down there. And so this is a capture. We painted along the way, and we painted at the bottom. use some of those studies to develop this painting.
Absolutely remarkable. But you also do a little bit, instead of just these huge, grand, sweeping landscapes, I've noticed that you also do some very intimate work, but it still catches that sense of distance. This is a wonderful piece too.
Yeah, and someone once told me there's atmosphere in my still life paintings too, which I thought was a nice compliment. But this is another one that's really, I think the subject is that atmosphere. But, you know, for me, it's also capture mood by placing a subject in the foreground that is dear to me. And in this case, I felt like the farm really gave this painting a story. And ultimately, I think even as landscape painters, we're storytellers. And so using elements like this really help guide that viewer into the story.
Absolutely wonderful. Well, Mr. David Santananis, I really appreciate the fact that you're here with us, and I am sure that the grandeur of your paintings has caught somebody's eye tonight. I hope you wish you the best of luck.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. And thanks everyone for putting on a great show.
Thank you. All right. Cameron, who would you like to talk to next?
Yeah, Chris Navarro's here.
Oh, Chris Navarro.
Yeah, you said 7:25, right?
Well, Chris, we're a little behind right now.
Oh, are you? Well,
Yeah.
I'm out here working my horses. When do you want me to call you back?
I'll just give us a call back in. Let's see, how far? How about I don't know. I'm trying to find you on the list here, man.
I was 7:25 p.m.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. How about we do give us like another 30 minutes?
What time is it right now?
It's 7:34.
7:34. All right, so 8:04. I'll call you back.
All right, sounds good, man.
See you.
All right. Well, up next we have Lori Lee does some very awesome work, and you know, it's one of those things. She does some really great images of the Miss Frontier. So up next we have Lori Lee. Mike.
Oh my goodness, yes, I've been looking. We can hear you just fine.
Okay,
How are you
great.
doing, Lori? Nice
I'm
to see
doing
you.
well. I miss you guys. I miss being there.
Well, we miss having you too, but you're capturing some of the element of Cheyenne Frontier Days that we've gotten to miss this year. This is wonderful. I've seen this one quite a bit. I think this is marvelous.
Well, thank you. That's Hallie Jankowski, if I've got her name right, the Queen for 2019. This is about the fourth or fifth Queen I've painted for the shows, and that's been really fun. I have them model back in the barns behind the rodeo grounds, and you know, it's just been really fun capturing their beauty, basically. So
I know that former Miss Frontiers have bought your paintings because they love the depictions that you make of them.
yeah, that's been really nice that way. Yes, I'm very tickled with that. Yes.
That's wonderful. It's wonderful to see that these young ladies are wonderful people and great ambassadors for the rodeo, and you capture them very, very well.
Well, thank you. They're a lot of fun. They're good models.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of a lot of fun, this is very unique and also a tremendous amount of fun.
Yes, that one you have to kind of zoom in close on. I mean, you get the initial image there, which is, you can see it's a barrel racer on the outside.
Right.
And this is what I call, this is number 5 in what I call the Little Dreamer series. Number 4 was Writing a Dream, and that one was chosen for the poster. I think it was about 4 years ago, something like that. So this one is a new one in it, and there's just a lot going on, but you see the story of the little girl. You can look at it 2 ways. The little girl on the inside is dreaming, of course, that she is doing what the outside image is, or you can look at the outside image and you think in the heart of every barrel racer was once a little girl dreaming to do, doing just what she's doing there. So it's just kind of a fun concept, something contemporary for me. But so I've just really enjoyed them, and they've been well received. So it's fun.
I love the details in the background. Those are so much fun.
Yeah, well, thanks.
Well, moving from the fancies of a young lady about what she's going to be doing in the future, you wonder what's going to be going on here.
Yeah, I've been painting these little donkeys, and they are just so cute. They crack me up. They've been well received. They're just popular, and you know, you can just pick them up and squeeze them like a stuffed animal. They're just so cute.
He looks like he knows it's coming.
Yeah, yeah, yep.
Those are delightful. And this is kind of unusual. This is unusual. This next piece is not along the lines with people or animals, but this is a wonderful capture of an early morning sunrise, I believe.
Yeah, it is. Well, actually, it's you know, the cowboy actually is coming home, and it's actually more towards evening, but it's the sky. I love doing sky scenes like this with the warmth, and then countering with the blue tones of the snow around the area. But the story is he's coming home, and can't wait. You got the lights on in the house there waiting for him, the smoke coming out of the chimney as a welcome for supper coming. You know, so it's just I really like painting those kind of scenes too. So I kind of have a broad scope of subject matter. That's kind of who I am, but I sure enjoy painting anything pretty much.
Thank you very much, Lori. It's great to have you back in the show.
Thank you.
All right, Cameron, who's next?
Well, up next on our list is going to be Barbara Summers Edwards.
All right.
That is you. I apologize for making you travel a little bit, though.
All right, let me see where it is.
You're on the back side of the wall that Carmen's standing on.
Oh, very good. Well, now I know where I am. Okay. All right. Oh, yes, we're coming right around. Barbara Edwards, wonderful to have you here this evening. They're absolutely remarkable pieces of young Native American women. Wonderful dress. I love the coins that she has sewn into her gown right there. Absolutely remarkable. Look at the colors on. Hi, how are you doing?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. That's wonderful. How are you doing this evening, Barbara?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Wonderful. Can you tell us a little bit about this beautiful piece?
This is called Pennies for Them. It was originally, I was thinking that because of the pennies on the dress, I was thinking of the saying, a penny for your thoughts. And so I researched that saying and found out that it started in the 16th century. And during the wars here in the States, that they shortened it to pennies for them, a penny for them. And so my title is Pennies for Them, which is referring to their thoughts, both the horse and the girl.
Wonderful piece. I love the way that you got the shine of the pennies on that blue. That's amazing.
Yeah, I love that. I love painting people, and I love painting Native American women. So when I was a little girl, that's what I wanted to be when I grew up. I didn't know that you had to have the right genetics for that, but
absolutely. But I can see in the next painting, I can imagine why. This is absolutely stunning.
That's the favorite one of mine that I entered. It's called Looking Back, and it's a young Native American girl who is, of course, obviously a fancy shawl dancer. And here where I live, they used to do a Festival of the American West where they would kind of talk about the history of the West, but they'd have a powwow too. And so I call it Looking Back. Not only is she literally looking back, but she's also reflecting on her history, you know, her ancestors, and I just thought that was kind of appropriate for the title.
Absolutely stunning. Beautiful colors in her dress. An amazing capture.
Thank you.
And then this piece over here is also wonderful, but a little bit different.
Yeah, I go to Artist Ride. I used to. My husband and I used to go. We started in 1996 and went for about 30 years straight. And so I have this love for light. And so it's called breaking light. And so I find light fascinating, not only as an artist, but spiritually. So I just kind of really like that.
It's a great, that is just stunning. I love the rays.
Yeah. It's like we all like to go to the light, you know.
Absolutely. Well, this piece right down here, speaking of light, our exhibits curator, Brian Briggs, who's hanging this show, just had to stand back and look at this next piece for a while. He was amazed at how you caught the reflections on the water.
Yeah, I like to paint horses as much as I like to paint people. And so, as a matter of fact, when I was a little girl, I learned to ride before I have memory. So I always knew how to ride. But this is also an artist ride, and when the horses run through the river, that's my favorite part of artist ride, is when they run the horse herd through the river. And it created these waves that caught the blue of the sky, and it was just as fun to paint the waves as it was to paint the horses.
Amazing color. I mean, this is just absolutely wonderful to look at. I kind of see what Brian is saying about that reflection. That is like a mirror, and it's just fabulous to see those horses moving across it.
Yeah, and it's called The Swift and the Strong. And I just think, I think horses are just one of the most beautiful animals there is. So not only when they run, but their strength, they're strong animals. So I love them.
Absolutely. Well, Barbara Summers Edwards, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for your hard work. I really appreciate everything you've done.
Oh, it's been absolutely delightful. I enjoyed it every minute of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, Cameron, who's next?
Hi. So the next the next person is Mary Lou Pape.
Mary Lou Pape. I know where she is. All right. Well, anyway, this is wonderful to have Mary Lou Pape again, somebody that's returned to us for many, many years. And Mary, welcome back to the Cheyenne Frontier Days Western Art Show.
Hello, Mike. I'm thrilled to be back.
Yes, and congratulations. The very first piece I'm showing, somebody really loved that very intense look on his face.
Wonderful. That little bobcat just really did not want to get his feet wet. He was a joy to photograph.
Oh, this is amazing. Yeah, you can almost see that he's really thinking about wherever he's having to go. He would rather not.
That's right.
Oh, that is fantastic. Well, congratulations. You have some wonderful pieces with animals. And of course, this is a delightful piece as well.
Oh, yes. I just love that little moment between the cow and her calf. We were in Custer State Park, and our car kind of got stopped by a herd of buffalo. So we just sat and enjoyed watching them, and really loved watching these cows and calves.
That's really a neat capture. I like that.
Thank
All
you.
right. And over here on this side, we got some people that are coming back into your pictures. But again, that wonderful sense of animals and the relationship.
Yes, I love to, if I can capture a little moment in time or tell a story, that's a goal of mine. And this cowboy, his dogs adored him and followed him everywhere, of course. So I hope that I was able to capture that moment between them.
Absolutely. You can certainly see it in their gaze.
Yeah.
I've seen that look in my dog. Thank goodness. It was one of the best feelings in the world.
Oh, it is for sure. They love you.
And here's something entirely different, a different type of love. This young lady for something she adores.
Oh, she loves her doll. This little Crow Indian girl, one of the first times she ever modeled, and wasn't too sure about it at first, but she enjoyed playing with the dolls for sure. And it's kind of a universal thing. Every girl loves dolls.
Wonderful. I love that. Well, Mary Lou Pape, thank you very much, and congratulations already. I hope this is the beginning of a very successful show for you.
I appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Thank you. All right, Cameron, who is next on this wonderful opportunity?
Well, next up, Carmen, we do have Laramie local Linda Lillegraven.
Hello.
Yep.
Cameron, did you say Linda?
Yes, we are on Linda.
There it is.
There it is.
Hello.
Good evening, Linda. How are you? How's Laramie?
Oh, it's just fine. A little warm for my taste, but sorry I can't be there so near and yet so far, huh?
Exactly. Well, thank you for sending in this gorgeous work.
Well, thank you for having it. Thank you for carrying on with the show.
Well, and there's been a lot of good buzz about your beautiful horizons and your Christmas tree rock. Anything that inspired you when did you see this in real life that captured your imagination?
Of course. No. Well, yeah, I've driven past. It's just off the highway. It's on the Firehole River in the park, and this tree growing out of this big rock right in the river. And the legend has it that for many years the park employees have apparently waded the river in August to put ornaments on that tree. And I have actually seen it with ornaments on it. I don't think the Park Service really approves. It's a bit, but that's why they call it that. But I love the reflection and the morning mist rising off the water. Just the whole composition, rock in the shadows.
It's very beautiful. And this is April Pastures.
Yeah, this is out in the Laramie Valley, just down one of the side roads off of Highway 130. And it's just, I love the Wyoming skies. That it's a little hard to see on here, but just those ominous clouds that fade off into nothing, and yellow grasses in the springtime before things just start coming out.
Well, you certainly do have a way of capturing that glorious Wyoming sky.
You know, there's one book that a lot of artists have used, that Carlson's Guide to Oil Painting, and he always says you should always add a little ochre to your skies, that a pure blue sky is the sign of an amateur. Well, an ochre tinted sky is the sign of somebody who lives at sea level. So sometimes you have to take that old advice with a grain of salt.
You heard it here, folks. Pro tips. So just want to introduce Big Hollow Rim Study.
Big Hollow is a big valley out to the west of Laramie, and it's a deflation feature, says the wife of the geologist, and it was blown out by the wind. And this is looking back up toward the rim from down in the basin. And there's no way you'll be able to see it here, but there are some horses on the slopes. Yeah. Not in much detail because they're kind of microscopic, but I'm planning to do a bigger version of this one day. So,
well, we can't wait to see it.
Late afternoon light.
And then one is Morning Near Mud Volcano.
Yeah, and of course this is in Yellowstone. This is in Yellowstone National Park again. I'm not a morning person at all, but when I'm camping in the park, I get up before dawn and go out, because that's when the mist comes up off the water, and the wind hasn't come up yet, so the water's still, and the reflection. Wonderful skies. So yeah, all these different variations of color. The mud volcano area is off to the very left-hand side of the painting, where there's all sorts of interesting thermal things going on. But this is just a view of the river early in the morning.
Great. Well, thank you, Linda. Thanks for joining us this evening.
Well, thank you for having me.
Cameron, who's next?
Well, up next, we have Julie Nighswonger, a new artist to Western Art Show, but she's a longtime Western Spirit artist.
Well, welcome, Julie. A big CFD welcome to you. We're happy to have you in our family. So thanks for being here tonight.
And thank you. I'm quite excited to begin the show and hopefully get over to see it, so in person.
That's right, because you're not far away, right, Torrington?
Yep, about 100 miles from there.
Well, bring the bread, doctor, when you come.
There you go.
All right, tell me about Mountain Stream.
Mountain Stream is just one of those places. I guess the mountains are my happy place. And I like to get it. I layer my paintings, and I like it to be able to feel the sounds of the smells and everything about just being there, the quiet kind of a place that you can think.
And this one is Chasing Daylight Again.
Chasing Daylight Again was a fun painting. I did one fairly similar to it, but and yet not. I wanted to change it up, and you know, chasing daylight as a cowboy or rancher, everyone knows that you're always chasing something, or you know, not getting your work done, or there's always that one cow that's out or gone, and so I wanted to play with that and yet play with the color on it, you know, a little bit different for me, but you're not getting full color at that time of the day. So
it's beautiful.
Thank you.
And over here we have Mother's Comfort.
I'm an animal lover through and through, and the babies just, they kind of tug at me. And this one just had the perfect light to paint it, and composition, I felt like. So.
They are sweet, that's for sure.
So thank you.
And this is Stand By Me.
Stand By Me is, it's just amazing how big those horses are. And they're so powerful, and they're so muscular, and yet they have that tender moment. And they're just truly the gentle giants, as people call them. So I was hoping to portray, you know, the strength and yet the subtle beauties that they have.
Indeed. Well, thank you, Julie. Really appreciate you being here, and hope to see you again next year for the 125th.
Thank you. I appreciate being here. So.
All right, I'm just going to show off our lovely volunteers yet again. I don't hear that bell ringing, so be sure to call us at 307-778-7289 or check us out, cfdartshow.com. Cameron, who can I show off next, pretty please?
Well, up next, Mike, we will be shifting to our stage wall, which this year features 5 new artists, with starting out first, Dennis Rhoades.
Dennis Rhoades, good evening. How are you today? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a wonderful collection of 4 pieces that have a variety of absolutely magnificent color and also some wonderful imagery as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice to have you with us, Dennis. Thank you very much for coming to the show this evening. These are fun. I really enjoy looking at these. This is an enormous contrast between a kid and mom.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. I just I go to the Coors rodeo all the time and walk around shooting pictures of different animals, and I shot one of this, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and I've been meaning to paint it, but it looked like it would fit right in with ranching and farming and all that. So I painted it and had a good time.
This is a wonderful picture.
Thank you.
Like I said, that kid is going to be ferocious, I have a feeling.
Could be. You never know.
That's delightful. Speaking of ranching and farming, this caught my eye from across the room. People who know we do a lot of carriages, and of course we work a lot with the CFD parades. Any wagon is so welcome. What a wonderful piece this is.
Well, everybody, to me, that means the Old West. You know, that all the cowboy movies I've watched over my life, they always had something like this in them. And they're still around some places, you know, and I decided just to paint this, and I think it came out fairly well. So.
Well, that did. I mean, that's really a lot of fun. I love the fall colors that you're able to catch with your pastels in the background.
Yeah, I love to paint with pastels. I can do things with it that I can't do with anything else. But
yeah, it was pretty neat. I'll show people another picture that I thought was really remarkable as well. This one is great too, though. I love this. What's the story behind this picture?
In one of my painting trips around the state, I found this old adobe ruin still standing, and I thought, God, that'd be a great thing to put in a painting or add something to it. And then all of a sudden, when I went through some of the things I was intending to paint, and looking at a buffalo, I thought that kind of out of the same era, you know, buffalo hunters and Indians, and I don't know. So I combined the two, and yeah, I like that painting too.
It's a moment in time.
It is. It really is.
That's wonderful. Now this one over here is absolutely timeless, and it's so vivid, especially with the pastel colors that you're able to choose. It really grabs people from across the room.
I love to paint color, and this one, I really liked it when I got finished with it. And the reason is, it's not so much a scene as it is almost going into abstract, you know. I don't know, I just thought it turned out very well, and I like this painting too. So
It's really remarkable. Vivid colors. I mean, this would have been a wonderful place to see in reality. I think you were very fortunate just to even have been there.
well, some of that stuff wasn't there in reality, but yeah.
That's what artists are able to do. It's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, well, thank you very much.
Absolutely. Dennis, it's a delight to have you in the show. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right. Cameron, who else is next on the wall?
Well, Michael, I think you're just going to move right down the wall there. You got Audrie Mergelman up next.
So I do. Audrie is a longtime artist here at this CFD Western Art Show and Sale. Audrie, it is very good to have you back again.
Thank you, Mike.
These are great. I'm always fascinated with your brush strokes, the variety that you have from piece to piece. You don't have a style that stays consistent. And it really is wonderful to see what you're able to come up with.
Yeah, didn't take long, did it?
Yeah, I like to play with the palette knife and brush strokes. I feel like my subject style.
Oh, hang on a second.
Yep.
I think, go ahead, Audrie, by all means.
I just enjoy the pursuit of drawing different techniques. And so I think just playing with style, playing with color, playing with, you know, the way paint is actually applied to the canvas is part of my subject.
I see it. This one is almost dappled on.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That is such a wonderful contrast to the next pieces that we have. Like this one right down here. The colors and the brush strokes, everything is very different.
Yes, it is. Yep. That was just a bunch of horses, and you could tell by the way they were standing and the way they were gesturing towards each other just exactly what was going on, and that was just my whole intention there.
Yeah, there's a little trouble going on.
Yeah.
It's a great scene. I love that. Oh, absolutely wonderful piece. Well, how about this one? This one is incredible. This one is very different than the other two altogether.
Yeah, that was the guy who was ponying that horse for the first time. He actually had a really good wreck just before that, but I just enjoyed taking photographs of him. And yeah, this one's a lot more abstract, a lot more loose, but hopefully captured the idea of the cowboy with, you know, ponying a horse around.
You said that he just had a wreck. What happened?
Both horses were new to the idea, and the other horse got on the other side of him, and the rope was around him before, you know, he knew what was going on, and it took him right off the horse.
Oh, everybody looks pretty calm after that wreck.
Yes, that'll calm you down.
I imagine it will. Wonderful, strong brush strokes on that one. Very bold. And then this piece right down here is also wonderful. And again, once more, it's very different than the other four pieces that you have.
Yeah, that was actually just south of Laramie, and I said in the description that we were just looking for pictures, and they were all out one day, and it was super hot, and they were just kind of spread all over the hills, and it was just kind of fun to do part landscape, part horse subject painting that I traditionally do.
Oh, wonderful. Now, do you just travel around and you find each one of these scenes, or are these things close to home?
This is the hardest part. I can paint all day, but finding pictures to use, that is the most difficult part of all of it.
Huh. Absolutely. Like this one right up here. This one looks like this could happen almost anywhere, but you capture it so well.
Yeah, that was Cheyenne Frontier Days. That was slack. I like to go up and take pictures of the horses in the bucking pens, and because they're close, and a lot of them are good-looking horses, so it's fun to photograph them.
I knew that looked familiar. Well, that is absolutely remarkable. Well, Audrie, thank you again for incorporating so much of Cheyenne Frontier Days into your work. Your horses, as usual, are amazing, and your brushstrokes are very memorable.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for coming. All right, Cameron, who's next after Audrie?
Well, Michael, I think you're just going to move down the line there a little bit. I believe after Audrie, you have Trish Stevenson, who's a new artist.
A new artist. Well, Trish, welcome to the Cheyenne Frontier Days Western Art Show and Sale, and what an entry this is.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to be there. Thank you.
Speaking about rodeos, this looks also something that we all dearly miss, but what an amazing snapshot of action that we would usually see here at Cheyenne Frontier Days. This is remarkable. Where did you do this?
Where did I view it?
Yeah, or where did you get the inspiration for this particular piece?
Well, I love rodeo, so I go, all summer photographing, and I'm not even sure now where that one was. It could have been the Champions Rodeo in North Dakota that they have every year. But like I say, I have thousands of reference photos from rodeos that I go to all summer long. So, and then I'll take and borrow from different ones, like change out the color of the chaps or the cowboy shirt or whatever, just to make, so that it'll be a piece of artwork, not just an exact replica of a certain ride,
Okay.
So, and then this one, I used a lot of different colors on this one that, just helped with the action and the movement.
So all of these might be compositions or a collection of various images that you remember or recall from various rodeos that you see every year.
Exactly. And, I'm striving to get a lot of it is about the power struggle between the cowboy and the horse, because they're both great athletes. They're both champions, and one of them has to be the winner and one has to be the loser. So I just try to capture that struggle.
That is remarkable. Very vivid and very fluid. Now, speaking of winners and losers, I think we almost know what's going to happen in this piece.
Right. Yeah, he's heading for a wreck, but he's doing his job, the bullfighter. He's getting the bull away from the fallen cowboy and risking his own butt there. So they're a very necessary part of the rodeo. So I enjoy that part of it too.
And you chose pastel to do these rodeo scenes. A lot of other people, of course, like oil and they do pencils. How did you see that the pastels that you use help you capture the color and the imagery of the rodeo?
I do oil also. That big one there is an oil, but
so it is.
Yeah, but the pastels they seem to lend themselves to the action. The dust and I don't know. I just have always leaned towards pastels for the rodeo, but like I say, I've done the oils too. So.
So why did this, with the pastels as being your primary desire to put or use that as the medium for rodeo, why did you select oils for this particular piece?
oils kind of give me a chance to get into a more more studied version, I guess. You know, they're not as quick for me as pastels. So this guy, I wanted it to be big. So I just, you know, like other artists, you experiment and you try new things. And this one I really enjoyed the shadows of the horse, the white or gray horse. You know, there's a lot of different colors in his shadows that was fun to portray.
Oh, amazing. Wonderful action that you catch here. And then, of course, this scene, with all the action that we've had with rodeo, again, there's also other portions of rodeo that are relatively quiet, but they still bespeak power.
Exactly. Yeah, you've got to love the bulls. And this one, I really focused on his eyes and his expression. You know, he's supposed to look menacing, you know, to some extent. And I really had a lot of fun with texture on this one. I used more palette knife than I usually do. And getting the design of the horns is always fun on a horned animal. They're just so exquisitely designed by nature, by God. And I used a lot of palette, a lot of paint on his coat also, the red coat. And Herefords are just fun to paint with their creamy faces and their red coats. They're just really fun for me.
Absolutely delightful. These are wonderful, wonderful pieces. Thank you for capturing the rodeo action that you did. I think people that are seeing this at home miss the rodeo tremendously, but this gives them a great taste of what they used to see and hope to see again. I think these are just marvelous.
Well, thank you. I hope to be at a rodeo soon too, so.
All right, well, hang in there. Thank you very much for joining us, Trish, and good luck to you on this wonderful opportunity to show your work.
Thank you so much.
All right. Over to you, Carmen.
I think up next,
Thanks, Michael.
Carmen.
You're welcome.
And Carmen is going to be talking to a 14-year veteran of the Western Spirit Show, Mr. Will Ursland.
Good evening, Mr. Ursland. How are you?
I am fine, Carmen. Thank you for the opportunity to show here this year. Mike, hi. Cameron, nice to meet you.
Well, we are so glad you're here, and we're excited that you have decided to join the summer show. I have certainly enjoyed your work in the Spirit Show for a many number of years. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. In fact, I met you the year My Best in Show came over from the Maverick, sponsored it at the summer show in rodeo, and that was my first kind of trip out there to see the show and the rodeo at the same time. So
yeah, Mavericks was a fun committee of young professionals where the museum was hoping to really cultivate that younger audience and have them participate more in the process and cultivate their own collections. So hopefully we can keep that moving, and thank you for embodying that younger contemporary spirit.
I have the gray hair, but the spirit's young. So.
The spirit is there, yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me about which piece is your favorite.
Oh, you know, I really kind of like the large Native American guy a lot because I stretched a little bit and tried to do a portrait and, you know, tell a story at the same time. I own the blue horse shield there that's in that painting. And Michael Badhand, who's an actor, reenactor, knowledgeable fellow, holds workshops at the Greasy Grasser in Montana and out in Oregon too. This year I couldn't make it, so I bought some reference photographs from him and then kind of put together several of them to make one painting with featuring my shield there. So I'm kind of fond of that one. It's just, someone said it looks like a stained glass window. I mean, the colors are kind of modulated a little bit, and they just kind of glow and it radiates, and it's a larger painting.
You're right. In person, it definitely glows and radiates. That's an apt description.
Thank you.
I like the subject matter here at the racing blood. I like the car and the horse.
The Bugatti, the story's taken from Elizabeth Janik, who was married to a Bugatti racer. Her husband was raced for the Bugatti team, and she then developed a love and a knack and a skill for racing. So that started the story. I found an old photograph of her sitting on the back of the bench seat like that. And then a story kind of evolved where I wanted her to be Native American, and her father raced horses bareback. And as you can see, there's a little handprint on the back of the Bugatti too. So this story just kind of evolved as I painted it based on that.
It's fantastic.
And this one, I'm a horse owner, and I drive and I build sleighs, and I'm kind of like, I don't know, it sounds like I don't have time to paint, but when I do build sleighs, then I drive them. And I talked to Mike once at the show, at the Spirit Show, and I think you had some, a wagon restored by Hanson Wagon Works in South Dakota. And you used to have the chuck wagon races at the rodeo, but I don't think you have them anymore, do you?
You know, Mike is the true expert on the collection here. And I know all of the carriages, if you're here in Cheyenne, they're over at the exhibit hall.
I've been out there. I've been out to the Saturday coffee club with the guys restoring them and talked to them. And I've been out back and forth, but that's kind of what inspired this painting. And so I built a chuck wagon from a kit from Hanson Wagon Works, who builds the Wells Fargo stagecoaches and things like that. And then I set it up. And if you look really closely, the cowboy is in his bedroll is reading a Will James book. And Will James is my favorite Western illustrator and rodeo cowboy, all around cowboy kind of guy. So I had him reading Smokey, which is every kid's probably read, and put that in the painting as well, along with the chuck wagon model, so that I could have really good, accurate reference for painting a chuck wagon. I've painted them a lot. I've got a lot of photographs of them, but this one called for a special angle, and so I built the model. It took me about a month to make it in my spare time.
Wow. It's very cool. And I like the watering cup. There's so many interesting details. You'll see something new every time you look at it, for sure.
Right. Thanks.
And this is Buttercup.
Buttercup is a performer, or was. Some friends of mine who live in Cheyenne have a niece who is a rodeo, has been a rodeo performer. And I used a snapshot of Buttercup and then kind of like put a lot of my own thoughts into the painting to make it vivid and, you know, flashy, and just like the rodeo, the gal and her horse Buttercup too. So it's set in an imaginary arena, but the fence in the background is right out of your CFD rodeo. So I'm disappointed I won't be there this year to go down in the chutes with my camera again and get some more rodeo photographs, you know, reference photographs to paint from.
Well, I will look forward to seeing you next year at the 125th. Thank you, Will Ursland.
Thank you very much, Carmen.
Have a super evening.
Have a great show. Thanks.
Thanks. Best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Well, Carmen, next up we have another Western Spirit alumni, Robin Cook.
Good evening, Robin. Congratulations to you. Babyface has sold.
Thank you.
Uh-oh.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Robin.
Okay.
Oh, I can't hear Robin.
Sorry, my microphone might not be very good. Is that a little better?
Oh, very well. Good. Thank you.
Okay.
Maybe. I'm having
Is this a little better?
technical difficulties. Yeah, perfect.
Okay. Okay. Sorry about that.
No worries. So again, congratulations to you, Robin. And I know there's a lot of excitement about your pieces. Everybody's amazing what you can do with a pencil.
Well, thank you.
So this one is East or West. I love the composition.
Thank you. That was a fun one to do. That longhorn, she had such unique horns, and I caught her at that angle, and I like to add a little humor to my titles when I can, and it's just East or West. It's like she just doesn't know which direction she's going to go next.
Right, for sure. And this one is the Gatekeeper.
He is
Definitely
my favorite.
formidable.
Thank you. He's my favorite. He's a PBR bull, and I just caught him at the right moment. I like those small moments, simple moments, and he was just so unique, and he had such a stoic personality about him, and I just had to catch it. I had to draw it.
Well, it is very majestic.
Thank you.
And this one is Gentleman Jack.
That is Gentleman Jack. He's a beautiful, beautiful quarter horse that I went to see some friends who train reining horses, and I one of those other simple moments that I just wanted to capture. I love the way the light hit his face and the look on his face, and learning how to get that sleekness and get those muscles drawn in just to make it unique.
Mm-hmm. Those muscles are some great detail. I'm trying to zoom in and talk at the same time. Great. Well, again, congratulations, Robin, and thanks for being here tonight. And again, this is Robin Cook.
Thank you.
Well, up next, Mike, we have, thank you, Carmen, for those great interviews. And Mike, up next, we have Chris Navarro, who is famous for doing a lot of our sculptures that are located just outside of our museum.
Yeah. Chris Navarro, how are you doing, my friend? Welcome back. I wonder if he's still out there with his horses.
Well, let me try to unmute him real quick and see if I can help him out a little bit.
Hello?
Hey, Chris, how are you doing, my friend? Welcome back to the Old West Museum.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. Absolutely wonderful to be talking to you again.
You
Looking
bet.
looking at your pieces here, these are absolutely remarkable.
Hey, well, thanks. Yeah, I get to make a living doing something I like.
Yeah. Which piece would you like? I mean, there's so many wonderful ways to get started. Talk about what each one of these bronzes are and the sculptures and what they represent. Is there any one that you would like to get started with?
Well, you're right there at home record. Let's start with that one.
Sounds good to me. I love this.
Yeah, you know, I like calling it home record. I always try to use my titles to help tell the story a little bit. And so this is a big old bull elk, and he's shed, they rub their antlers on kind of to mark their turf around other bulls. So he's marking a spot, but where he's marking it on a tree, there happens to be a magpie family living there. And they're all kind of upset because he's sitting there about to knock their nest down. So that's why I call it home record. And it's just kind of having a little bit of a conflict and a little bit of interest instead of just having an elk standing there by himself. So it's always nice to tell a story, and I think this tells a good one.
That's a lot of fun, yeah. Yeah, they almost look rather perturbed, don't they?
Well, have you ever been around magpies? They get pretty perturbed.
I think they don't have a lot of reason to be perturbed. They just are.
Yeah, that's true.
Now they've got cause.
Yeah, so, I mean, I always like elk are beautiful animals to sculpt, and I just, instead of just having an elk bugling, which I've done a few times, I thought I'd have one kind of interacting with some other animals, so it gives it kind of more of a story.
That is a lot of fun. Now, that one is kind of one. Did you imagine this, or is it something that you actually saw?
Well, I got magpies around my place all the time, but it's just something I decided to do. I like the title Homewrecker, and I was thinking of a big bull elk, and the story just kind of come to me.
Yeah. Well, as a cowboy yourself, and not only an artist, I'm kind of wondering about the next piece that you have here. What goes around comes around. Did this happen to you?
No, you know what? I've always liked that saying. What goes around comes around. That means it's kind of about like karma. So what goes around comes around. And I thought, well, heck, this guy's roped this old, ugly banana horn bull that's gotten in with his registered heifers, and he's got to get him out of there. So he goes and throws a rope on him. He didn't cinch his saddle up quite tight enough. And that old bull's coming around the tree after he's roped him, and the saddle's starting to slip, and it's going to be a wreck. So he has to decide whether he wants to let go or hang on. I just thought, yeah, it's one of the few pieces where I kind of got a title, and I fit the sculpture to make the title, to match the title.
That is fantastic. Yeah, you can I guess you can leave it up to the viewer's imagination what's going to happen next.
Yeah, because you don't know if it's going to be a wreck or not, but it looks like it.
It's not looking good. That's a fun
in fact, I love to rope, and I was just roping right now, and working my horses and roping is probably the funnest things I do. And I've done a few roping sculptures, but just doing a couple of team ropers isn't that exciting. So I try to tell different kinds of stories.
That is amazing. I'm pretty sure there's some cowboys out there that have had something like that happen to them.
Yeah, you know what they say, what goes around comes around.
Absolutely. Well, how about this? This is kind of a fun piece. Now, this one, it was kind of fun. We had to have a discussion about how to actually display this piece. Can you tell us what this one is? This is Duality. It's a smaller
it's about
piece.
It's a piece about the stock market, the bull and the bear stock market. It was a piece a lady asked me to do a sculpture. And all the ones I've seen like quite a few of the bull and bear market sculptures, but I wanted to make this one unique by making it reversible, so you can pick it up and flip it over and turn it on the side, so it really can show it 3 different ways.
Sure. Let me demonstrate if I could. So obviously this is a flat market.
That's a flat market. That's a bear market. And everybody likes to see the bull on top as a bull market.
I would love to see that. So just for the sake of just basically letting things hopefully go the way that we would like, I'll put the bull back on top.
Yeah, he looks best that way, I think.
I think
it's
everybody
kind of unique.
Agree with you.
It's unique because you don't see many sculptures that are reversible.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, I came out here, and the people that originally put it out had it laying flat on its side, so bulls and bears were basically, like you said, wrestling in a flat market. And I was like, hey, wait a minute. And it's fun to actually figure that out. That was a fun piece.
Yeah, it's I like them to be a little bit unique. I like my sculptures to have a little bit of an individuality about them, and I don't think I've ever seen a bronze that was, reversible.
Yeah, a very unique concept. That's a lot of fun. But speaking of a lot of fun and a unique concept, this piece that you have right here is amazing.
Yeah, that's Crazy Horse Rides a Brave line. I read a story. Crazy Horse is probably my favorite warrior. I've done, I've probably done 3 or 4 bronzes of him. I've read about every biography I could on him, and his life story is pretty amazing. And he was real fearless in battle. He had a vision, and in his vision, he had this medicine that if he couldn't be hurt, he couldn't be hurt by his enemies in battle. And so he would do all these very daring things, and he would this is called riding the brave line, where he would ride in front of the enemy's lines, and they would shoot their arrows or their guns at him, and then when they were reloading, his other warriors would attack. So that's kind of a neat idea I had, and then I wanted to put it on and make it kind of a contemporary piece with that abstract inverted triangle that's holding him up, and then on the bottom of it, in relief, I've sculpted the vision he had. And if you look,
let's
there's
go back around and see that.
yeah.
Oh, yes.
So there's a red-tailed hawk. That's the symbol of the red-tailed hawk, and that was his medicine bird. And he would tie a feather in his hair with the red-tailed hawk, and he would tie a stone behind his ear he had in the vision. And in this vision, they had lightning bolts were striking all around, and hail was coming. And so and then if you look, I show some arrows being shot at the at the red-tailed hawk, and there's some bullets in the kind of sculpted in relief, and they wouldn't hit him. And so I kind of like put his vision in there and sculpted it to tell the story of us. That's why he was so fearless. And then he painted the lightning bolts on his horse. He painted one on his cheek. You look at the cheek of the warrior, he's got one painted on the side of him. I sculpted it as reliefs and then polished them back to the raw bronze.
Amazing. They did the same for the horse, I assume.
Yeah. So what you do is when you sculpt them, I sculpt them on there where they're raised above the metal of the horse, so we can polish them to give them that, instead of actually painting them white. I don't like a lot of paint on bronzes. I like patinas, which are chemical oxidation. But when you see the gold on the lightning bolts, that's just actually the raw polished bronze showing through. Bronze is very gold, and it kind of I don't know, it gives it a neat feeling. Instead of having it painted on.
Absolutely amazing. Chris, nice to have you back in the show. And as usual, you are always a surprise, a wonderful way of being creative and depicting some very common stories in a new and unique way.
Hey, well, thanks. I hope you guys have a big success this year.
I hope you do too, Chris. Thank you very much. And good luck with your roping.
All right, well, have a good day.
You too.
Bye.
Well, up next, Mike, we're going to switch over to Carmen for a little D. Michael Thomas.
Yeah, thanks, Cameron. I want to congratulate D. Michael Thomas on After the Dust Settles. There are multiples available. I want to remind people of that. And After the Dust Settles is a miniature of a larger copy that resides in Atlanta. So, and this one here is two sides to every story. Some gorgeous bridal on this portrait. And here is Been Around the Block. And again, if you're interested in a commissioned piece by D. Michael Thomas, please call the art show coordinator, Cameron, at 307-778-7289. And this one is Wild Strawberries.
Carmen, I want to go back to that piece,
Sorry. What piece would you like? The sales floor is really exciting. You're going to have to talk louder.
Yeah, so there's the piece, two sides of the story. It's the big horse head.
Yes.
And I think it's cool that he has two different sides to it. So he has the one side that is a tame side, and he has an untamed side on the other side.
Oh, thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I thank you for talking to us about Mr. Thomas's pieces. And next, we are going to go jump right back to Michael, who is going to be talking to Sabrina Stiles.
Hi, Michael.
All right, Sabrina, good evening. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I am wonderful. Thank you for keeping time with us and being able to join us to talk about your absolutely marvelous work. This is wonderful. I see that you are also doing pastel, but in contrast to several of the other artists that are on our show, you are able to capture some very muted, subtle, and very calm images in your work. Would you mind telling us a little bit about how you did some of this?
Sure. Well, I think that's just what speaks to me, is more trying to capture the mood of a scene. So, you know, I sometimes feel it's sort of nurturing to have one of these days that's sort of overcast and cloudy, but sometimes the colors are really beautiful under those conditions. So I try to capture that. And of course, this one that you're looking at has a ditch, which is a common scene out west here. So that one really spoke to me. It just says, you know, Western landscape to me.
Ooh, gorgeous piece. Yeah, it's beautiful. You know, yes, they're so ubiquitous. You don't really think about them very much. You just kind of pass them over. But a wonderful subject after all.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And then, of course, a lot of people, when they're talking about scenes, it's either grand landscapes or really wonderful captures of Western ranch life and farm life like you have in this next piece.
Yeah, so actually I was painting across the street and happened to turn around and see this beautiful glow as the sun was coming up on this farmhouse, this old farmhouse across the street, and happened to capture it with a photograph. I didn't have time to paint it on that day, but did go back and painted this one. So hopefully, you know, you can tell that that's the morning breaking on that, the front of that farmhouse.
Oh, that is remarkable.
Beautiful morning, beautiful color. So
Absolutely. And a nice warm morning by the looks of things.
yeah, just a nice, soft, glowy morning light. So.
Well, I like how that's bright and you capture the sunlight in this particular piece, but this next one is entirely different. This one has a mood that I just absolutely admire. This is just a remarkable capturing of a much different mood and attitude.
Yeah, yeah. So with that one, it is, you know, a lot more, I would say, about the design. I was intrigued by all the verticals in the scene and trying to capture that and the organic shapes against the more geometric shapes. So, and with a really subtle palette. So I sort of felt like that suited that piece.
Well, these are remarkable, and there's such a difference between each one of these works. I see what you mean by about the strong verticals. They just absolutely dominate the piece, but it's very, very well put together.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely marvelous.
It was really different than other pieces that I've done, but I really enjoyed doing it, and it's probably one of my favorite pieces that I've done. So.
Absolutely wonderful. Well, Sabrina, this is wonderful. These pieces are a wonderful addition to the show. I wish you a very good fortune in the rest of the summer show.
Yeah, and good luck to you with the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, Mike, next up we have a very special friend of ours, Mr. Brandon Bailey, who recently created our Lane Frost and Crystal Dew piece that are hanging right now in the Vanderwerk Gallery.
Oh, yes. Brandon, how are you doing today?
Doing well. How are you guys doing?
Absolutely fantastic. Nice to be talking to you again, my friend.
Yeah, good to talk to you.
You've got some interesting pieces. We have all been talking about, we've got a great spread going down the wall, but I love starting with this one. This wonderful piece called Power and Grace is probably the smallest thing I think I've ever seen you do.
Yeah, it's funny because, I mean, sometimes when I started out small, and I painted a lot larger lately. So it's kind of, some of these small paintings can almost take as much time as a large painting. So I don't do them as often, but I think it's kind of fun because not every collector has a large space for big paintings. So it's kind of fun to do it that way.
Oh,
and this one in
absolutely.
particular, I was with, I got blessed to get to mentorship with the Cowboy Artists of America. And this was painted at Grant Redden's place in Evanston, Wyoming, and I consider him one of the best painters just probably in the world. I mean, he's a great painter. So I was lucky to live with him for a week, and I painted this at his place, and we went out and took photographs of these horses. So this is over by Evanston, and we fed calves that night off of them, and it was like -10 degrees. So it was neat to see all the steam coming off the horses. But it's kind of a special time in my life to work with him on that. It was kind of a fun painting.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell it was cold, but I didn't realize it was that cold. That's amazing.
It was cold. It was cold. The guy that was driving the horses had holes in his jeans, and I thought, man, and I was in coveralls and everything, and he just seemed like he was doing all right. So he's a little bit tougher than me.
Absolutely amazing. Well, that's been interesting that you caught that by Evanston, Wyoming. You said that's kind of a neat piece. So where did you capture this one?
That piece isn't mine. I think mine are to the left.
Oh, wait a minute. You're right. This is Sabrina Stiles. My apologies, Sabrina, for not focusing on this. A very different piece. So I'm glad that we could catch that as well. But anyway, so sorry about that. They did this to me on purpose. Brian hung a couple of pieces one above the other, and I just made an assumption. I'm terribly sorry. But, you know, so we have your wonderful horses up here. How about this particular group of animals right here? This is kind of an entirely different environment.
Yeah, this is, I primarily work for my own reference material, but in this case, I have a friend that lives in the Sandhills of Nebraska, and my wife's grandma has a ranch in the Sandhills, and so she got this image a few years ago of these Herefords standing out in the field, and I've always been drawn to it because it's got the polled Hereford and then the horned Hereford, and it seemed like different places in time. I kind of like that because you always hear stories of the old Herefords, the squatty old Herefords, and then you kind of got the new, old and new together. So that was kind of what I was thinking when I did this piece.
That is really something else. Yeah, so the old Hereford, for those of us that don't know, the old Hereford would be the one on the right, correct?
Yep. And of course, he's probably a little bit newer. You know, I think some of them even were squattier yet. Just kind of, I don't know, those horns. I mean, I love those curled, pull down horns on them. And then, you know, you got, of course, of course, in the rodeo world, we call them muleys. But you put the two of them together, I thought it was pretty neat.
It's an interesting contrast. Amazing. Well, how about this guy? This is another interesting piece. So we're off from a distance with the Herefords, but then this guy is entirely different.
Yeah, this is of Burns Rodeo Company. His name is Kid Twist, and he was an NFR bull several years ago. And this one was kind of funny because I painted him, and I asked the question, of course, on Facebook. I said, does anybody know this bull and how mean he was? Because, I mean, it's kind of a running joke in the rodeo world. If it's a Burns rodeo bull and you're in the arena, he's going to come after you. So someone posted a picture of him at the NFR with a clown or bullfighter flung way in the air. So I guess he was pretty mean.
I guess so. Now, he doesn't have any lineage with Mr. T, who's also a Burns bull, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he probably doesn't per se. I mean, he's kind of different looking Burns bull. I mean, a lot of them are the dark, you know, with the almost kind of like a Jersey cow look to him. But he just was a neat bull, and I called it veteran because he's got that almost broken left ear from fighting. You can tell he's up there in age just by his horns. I mean, he's getting up there in age. So
he still looks like he's ready to get you, though.
Yeah, I'm sure he'd come after you if you went in there.
I'm pretty sure he would. Not a good idea. That's an amazing piece. I think the first piece that I saw that you brought here to the museum was a bull. And so it's neat to see these guys come back. Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, here we go. This is a really wonderful piece and altogether different from the other animals that you've had so far. This is a wonderful shot.
Yeah, this one was actually photographed last summer at the women's bronc riding at Cheyenne Frontier Days. And so that's kind of the fun part, especially when you do bucking horses and being a painter. I mean, as neat as it would be in the arena, it's always kind of fun to do something out in the prairie too. And their tack that they used was pretty close to, you know, what you'd see riding around, not so much saddle bronc tack. Of course, I had to change the headstall on the horse a little bit, but it's fun doing. I mean, I don't get to do the cowgirl stuff enough. You know, we tend to paint cowboys, and sometimes we don't get them portrayed enough. And I've been around some cowgirls when I was in my rodeo days that were tougher than any of us, that could ride as good as any of us. And I think it's fun when you see them portrayed in artwork, and I hope to do more of it. It was really rewarding. And I kind of went with that 50s pin feel to it, the 30s, 50s, kind of giving her a smile on her face.
I see that, yes.
But still, she was just a tough as nails girl, so it was pretty fun.
I was going to say, it says something about somebody that's on a horse that's ready to blow up on you, and you still have a smile and the poise like that.
Yep. And it's interesting, too, not her in particular, but there was one, and I think it was the girl that won the bronc riding that day. Every picture we took of her, she's smiling, literally smiling, laughing like she's having a great time on the horse. So it was pretty cool to see that.
Absolutely. Well, Brandon, as always, it is fantastic to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. And I always look forward to seeing what you're going to do next.
Yeah, thanks. And good luck with the show.
Thank you very much.
Well, up next, Michael, we're going to switch over to Carmen here, and Carmen is going to talk to Mr. Michael Albrechtsen.
Good evening, Michael. How are you?
Oh, let me unmute him real quick.
There we go. Need to unmute first.
Awesome. Well, I got to say, this is some great work you submitted to the show this year.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
I really enjoy the real cowboy here. Is he someone that you know?
Yeah, last year I did a painting of his wife, and in fact, Brandon was just talking about one of the girls that was in the rodeo a couple years ago. Her name's Sarah Brown, that was in the rodeo, and she won the girls' championship for that year. And I did a painting of her last year. And then I've kind of been doing some different paintings of her over the last couple years. And she just got married to this gentleman, this cowboy, whose name's Clay Armstrong, and they live out on the ranch together out there in Wyoming. So I decided I did her, so I better do him as well.
Matching set. Well, have them call us 307-778-7289. And then speaking of the ranch, I see a lot of movement here and not far from home.
Right. This reminds me of a lot of time when I was growing up. When I was younger, my parents grew up in a place down in eastern Utah, and we'd go down there, and my grandfather owned some cattle and different things like that, and there's not much down there but a lot of dust. And all I remember as a kid and riding horses and stuff down there, it was just a lot of dust kicking up, and you're excited to be home when the day's over. That's for sure.
That's for sure. And a nice hot shower, I'm sure.
Yeah, right.
And this is time to pack it up.
Yeah. So this is again another experience that you have when you go fishing, and those of you that have been fly fishing before, or fishing of any kind really, you can see the storms rolling in, and you see them coming. But you know, if you're having a good day, or even if you're not having a good day, you're just out there relaxing and enjoying the day, and you see the storm coming, but you just don't want to leave until you see that first bolt of lightning. Then you decided you better take off and head for home.
You better pack it up for sure.
Yeah. So one's about getting home and enjoying getting home. The other one's about not really wanting to leave for home.
And then making its own weather.
Yeah, that I started this one. I took a trip to Alaska a few years ago, and lovely country up there. I absolutely loved every minute of it. And one of my favorite things about Alaska, being able to be up there and seeing the sunsets and things like that, because the sunset up there, when I paint sunsets down here, lower states, the sunsets last about half an hour, 45 minutes, but up there, get all your paint stuff set to try to get the painting done, and you realize that the sun lasts for about 4 hours. So it was a great place to be. And then of course up there, those big tall mountains that are some of the big really tall ones, like Denali, and some of those, they're so tall, they're so high that they start to create their own weather up on top of the mountain peaks. So that's what this painting is about.
It's just beautiful, and I love how that last bit of light is hitting the river. Well, thank you so much for joining us this evening, Michael Albrechtsen.
Yeah.
Best of luck to you in the show this week.
You guys
And
as well. Hopefully the show goes well, and people.
Well, thank you for. Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us. Have a great night.
All right. Thank you so much.
Well, up next, Carmen, we're going to go back to Michael. And Mike is standing by at Kurt Theobald's pieces. And even though Kurt is unable to join us tonight, he did prepare us a little bit of a statement that he would like Mike to share with everyone.
Well, before I get to that statement, Cameron, I have to tell you, that it is a shame that our dear friend Kurt Theobald is not able to join us this evening. I have known Kurt for, well, almost 20 years. And I remember that he came into the Western art, actually came in starting with Western Spirit. And I remember him putting in his bowls and was wondering whether or not his stuff would actually sell. It has been an absolutely amazing ride to watch this man grow and have some amazing creativity in creating new things. The pieces that we have here in front of us, Pathways, is a wonderful stained glass piece that he designed. He creates all of his woodwork, and I mean, it's just amazing. I do not know how this man is able to do things with wood that he does. But he does it with glass. But here, this wonderful piece is called Pathways. The next piece that we have up here made out of alabaster. He doesn't just carve wood, and he doesn't just shape glass. He also shapes stones. And this wonderful piece of alabaster that he has right here is an amazing bowl. And I have yet to talk to him about how he was able to do this absolutely magnificent piece. I mean, it just catches the light here in the gallery and glows on its own. It's almost like it has a light that comes within. And it's just absolutely remarkable. And of course, with Kurt, we never know what we're going to have. You can see these extremely creative. I look at this and I'm like, holy moly, what is next? You know, when I said that he actually started and he wasn't sure what he would sell, I would give anything to have one of his very early creations. They were beautiful then and so intricately pieced together. But I mean, look at the finish and everything else that he has put into these absolutely remarkable pieces in this absolutely wonderful construct called We Will Overcome. And speaking of that, yes, he did want us to read a special statement, but specifically about this particular piece right here called A Beauty Within. And you can see that it has something similar to these wonderful little vases right here, buried inside a piece that is just absolutely remarkable. It's almost impossible to imagine how he was able to get this inside. But the light is giving it a little bit of a hard time to give it justice. But this is definitely some really fine work that shows the way that he's able to piece very creatively, very intricately carved wood and stone sometimes together. But anyway, he has a very special statement about this particular piece called The Beauty Within. And here it is. He says, created during the COVID-19 pandemic, this work is a reminder to look beyond what is noticed at first glance, look inside, and look to find the good. The aggressive sandblasting of the outer vessel reflects the destruction of the virus that has brought upon our world. It is easy to focus on the bad that has been happening and become caught in the trap of worry and doubt. However, as we've seen in the world, there is also bright, shining moments of those risking it all to help one another. First responders receive a hero's welcome in many places daily. Teachers are being thought of as valued. People are helping one another out in daily routines, albeit virtually at times. The smooth, glossy, bold, spirited with color in our vessel represents the hopeful beauty within we see in our world. It speaks of the resilience of people worldwide rising up to overcome the virus. This is absolutely wonderful, Kurt. You not only have a way with wood and stone, you also have a way with words. A true work of art. Thank you.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for those for the great comments on Kurt's work. It is absolutely incredible what he can do as a woodworker. You know, while Marlon Rotok cannot join us tonight, I think it's important that we do recognize Marlon's work in our show, and we also want to give a big thank you to Jerry, Kay, and the rest of the Justin family for their purchase of American Anthem as our 2020 museum purchase this year in honor of the past, present, and future CFD volunteers.
Absolutely. And Cameron, we will finish with that particular piece. But ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to show you these wonderful pieces that he has. These are all watercolors. And he has done some amazing, vivid, detailed work with watercolor. If anybody's ever worked with watercolor before, you know just how difficult it is. It does not follow commands very easily. Marlon Rotok makes this look easy. And the amazing detail that he has, everything from the American flag, from the saddle to the rings, to the tie-ons, to the saddle. I mean, every single amount of detail that he has in this particular piece called Made in the USA is just absolutely amazing. So it's not only the detail work that he's known for. Another wonderful aspect is, of course, the nature that he has with cowboys and the relationship they have with their horses. Here's another wonderful piece called Down at the Old Corral. And so it's wonderful. He captures some amazing light. You can see another cowboy that's helping with the saddling over here on the other side, just barely out of view, with this wonderful big horse right in the center. It's an amazing piece to see. And Marlon Rotak, in my mind, is also very well known for his mountain landscapes. This particular piece, Footpath Through the Rockies, is another wonderful example. And certainly, he seems to grow every time I see him in how he is able to present the light. This is absolutely remarkable. A bright, sunny day. I think I've actually been here. It's just remarkable to see this capture. It's not a photograph. This is a wonderful watercolor. And Marlon Rotak is somebody that we have in our collection. He was a museum purchase last year. And so it's really a wonderful thing to have him and his work return to the show. And I'm very pleased to be able to say something about it. But of course, with all the pieces that we have mentioned, the one piece that I have not mentioned about with Marlon Rotak is, of course, this year's museum purchase. And this is American Anthem. And again, thank you very much to Kay and Jerry Jessen and family for honoring the past, present, and future CFD volunteers. I think you can see exactly why this caught their attention. This basically talks about, of course, the ruggedness of the American individual, our continual hope and spirit of the future, and of course, just a wonderful remembrance of what has transpired to get us here and what bright future awaits the rest of us. It's a wonderful patriotic piece, and it is quite an honor to have this in the museum's collection. Thank you so much to Jerry and Kay and their family for bringing this to the Cheyenne Frontier Days Old West Museum. All right, Cameron. Who's next?
Carmen will be talking to Jan Perkins.
Hello.
Hi, Jan. How are you doing?
I'm great. This is fun to see everybody.
Absolutely.
Everybody's work. Nice to be here.
Awesome. We will get Carmen on here very shortly. It looks like it's a little dark at where you're at right now.
Yeah.
Are you running down a power?
Yeah, I'm running out of power, so apologize, Cameron.
It's all good. We're just
Where would you like me?
our batteries, I think, a little bit here.
Are we visiting with Miss Julie Kramer-Cole?
Julie Kramer-Cole is not on the call tonight. So
okay.
Jan is keep going. Oh, Michael is.
Well, good thing we have a good team here to all keep us in line. Thank you. All right.
So I will be fast because there are a lot of people in line. So I did something different this year. I did three small paintings, and they're all essentially in the same area, the same valley that Robert McFarland painted as well. It's a ranching valley in northern Utah, and I think all of my Cheyenne Frontier Days paintings have been from this valley. And I focus on the abstract quality, especially this year. And I want to guide the eyes to keep the eye moving. And each painting, I come up with words that when I find a scene that I just fall in love with, I'm trying something new. I'm finding words, emotional words, spiritual words that evoke the direction that I want to create in the work, if that makes sense. The feelings I want to project. So this one in particular was about that's really distorted, but that's okay.
Sorry.
The color and the texture and I use sandpaper and palette knife and cheap hardware store brushes to bring out a texture to evoke a feeling. And this feeling is from the back mountain, which is much more solid than what I'm seeing on my screen. But it brings out calmness and peace and tranquility, and you could hear the swallows flying around and the meadowlarks and the sounds right before the sun goes down in the evening is the feeling that I wanted to invoke in this painting in particular.
And you can definitely see all of those techniques that you described in that painting. So when you come in person, be sure to check it out. And then we have Cows and Autumn Jewel Tones.
Yes, this painting has a lot of texture. It's you can see the basic design on this screenshot, but it's lost all the detail. But I really like the design of all three of these because they're simple designs and they're horizontal, and I love painting in squares. And again, I like the feeling that this evoked. So I find different words and I do little sketches, thumbnail sketches before I land on a scene that I've actually experienced in person. And I'll do little drawings and photographs, and if I have time, I'll do little color sketches because the light's really fleeting, especially in the evening. So I hope you enjoy them.
We certainly do. We certainly are enjoying these. Thank you so much for sharing your stories, Jan Perkins. It's been a pleasure talking to you this evening.
Thank you. Likewise.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Jan. And Carmen, we are going to turn it over to Mike, who's going to talk to Mr. Tom Lockhart down in Colorado Springs.
Oh, I don't know what happened.
Right. No,
Hi.
I caught up with you. How are you doing tonight, Tom?
I'm doing well, and I want to thank you guys for putting this on. This is a terrific idea, especially in these difficult and interesting times. So thank you so much for this.
Absolutely. Well, it's a delight to have you. This is kind of a fun thing for us too. Both Cameron and I don't usually get the chance to talk to all of the artists in the show. As a matter of fact, maybe one or two a night. So this is a delight for us as well.
Good.
And this is fantastic. This piece right here, tell us a little bit about this.
Well, of course, I grew up in the southern San Juan Mountains of Colorado, and spending my youth up and down in the areas. We come across places like this that were very remote, and you know, we just, you know, as a kid growing up and down through those areas with my dad who went fishing and hunting and that sort of thing, it was exciting to see these things. And I just, as I grew up and became an artist, I went back to those places to visit them and try to come up with ideas that would create some, not only some memory, but some interesting subject matter.
Very good. Yeah, Colorado has so many valleys like this, but it's amazing how many people have not had a chance to see just the majesty.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I'm so grateful that I was able to get some of these wonderful areas now, because the beetle kill on a lot of these spruce forests up and around this area right in here where we're looking at, they're gone. So these things are treasures right now.
Absolutely. It's a wonderful capture of a beautiful moment.
Thank you.
Right. We have another interesting piece, a little bit smaller though. I mean, this of course is capturing something incredible that a lot of us are familiar with. We live out here, fortunate enough to be living out here in the West.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time hearing you. It sounds like your sound went down, but this is also an area that I frequented a lot in my youth. And of course, once I became an artist, and I looked for those wonderful pieces of subject matter that dealt with light and the design of the light, the value, the intensity, the that's what inspired me. And so I would come back to these spots and create these things many times in all kinds of different visual manners.
It's a warm evening. I mean, you can tell I've been there, and there's something about the sunset in the mountains that you can't find anyplace else.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And of course, the cattle is something that growing up, the Herefords were the epitome of the cattle, the cows that came into the Rocky Mountains because they were so hardy and strong. And I've always enjoyed looking at them.
Very nice. Now this piece looks like it's a little different in a different location. The other places, where did you do this?
Well, that, believe it or not, is outside of Del Norte, Colorado. There was a couple of old ranches there, and I'm kind of like McFarland and a few of the other artists that you spoke to earlier, and it's always nice to hear somebody else's ideas and their theories, their thoughts, their concepts. A lot of these places are gone. I relish the history of a lot of these old buildings and places up and down the Rockies, from Utah to Montana to Wyoming, and a lot of these places are gone. So I did my best to try to capture these places. I would go out and I would sketch and I'd paint in plein air. I'd photograph. I have thousands upon thousands of slides that I reference from.
This piece also is just absolutely amazing. For the heat of the summer, this looks very welcoming.
Yeah, that's one of those things where, coming up with the dramatic lighting in the area and trying to deal with the cattle grazing across this meadow early in the morning in October. And the Margarita Mountains, which you see in the very background, they're cliff-like, rugged, very historic. The Penitente Canyons, where a lot of the Ute Indians settled, and we'd go up there as youth and hunting arrowheads, and we'd find all kinds of artifacts in there that was really quite remarkable. So this is always, once again, this is what inspires me.
Absolutely gorgeous. Well, Tom, as always, wonderful to have you back in the show, and I encourage you to have a good time waiting for good news, because you already have sold one piece. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm excited about that. I appreciate you guys and all the work that you're doing, and keep it up.
Will do. Thank you so much, Tom.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Tom. And Mike, we're going to keep you on the same wall there, and we're going to move on to Mr. Jerry Markham on the opposite end of end cap of Tom's.
Well, very different pieces. Hello, Jerry. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Just fantastic. I really appreciate you spending time with us this evening. You've got three very neat looking pieces here. I'd love to have your top thoughts on how you put these together.
Oh, thanks. First of all, I just wanted to thank you guys for doing this. It's unique. I've never done this before, this Zoom thing, so it's interesting. Most of the paintings I did this year, I was really more focused on the paint itself, trying to experiment with thick and thin paint. So you can see that pretty good in the TP one here. For me, the subject somewhat becomes secondary to the application of the paint itself. So I hope to keep it loose enough that the viewer sort of can see the painting through their own filter a little bit. So that was sort of the goal with all three of the paintings.
Oh, it is just remarkable. Yeah, it almost has that grainy old-time film feel. Like if you're looking at old films from like 1900 or something like that, just when the film was getting started, it's just a remarkable effect.
Oh, thanks. Actually, the horse painting here, I'm glad you said that, because that was kind of I was going for sort of a vintage photo feel to the painting itself. So maybe it worked.
It worked, yes. It's wonderful to see how these different applications of the paint, and it's almost scratchy. So I see what you were saying there about trying to do something that's vintage, that's seen a history of its own, not just the image itself.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That's a neat piece. Tell us a little bit about this one here.
Oh, the mission. Yeah. A year or so ago, my wife and I traveled through New Mexico, and we had never been there before, and we just loved it, all of it. The people, the history, it was really unique to us. So when I got home, I started playing with different ideas, painting missions and stuff, and I really painted some night things, and I really like the blue, kind of the black blue against the orange yellow of the missions. So I was just playing with that a little bit.
Oh, and remarkable. He's a night piece too. It's a interesting capture. What time of year were you down there?
Gosh, we were there in the winter, and we were expecting it not to be so cold, but it was cold and snowy. So, yeah, it was winter time.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you very much for sharing these. These are amazing.
Awesome. Thank you guys for doing this.
Our pleasure. Thank you so much.
Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you, Jerry, for joining us tonight. And up next, we have, an artist who very much so cracked me up during the process of taking an art. He sent me some cartoons that he had drawn for a book recently that talk about an artist's mind. Very welcome Denny Neville to our live stream. Denny?
Hello, Denny. How are you tonight?
I'm here.
That's fantastic. I'm glad you are. I've looked at your pieces. These are really remarkable. I'm sorry that I don't miss those cartoons. I think that now that Cameron's mentioned those, I think people would really enjoy seeing them.
Yeah, maybe next year I'll paint a cartoon. I got one in the Buffalo Bill show this year that's a painted cartoon.
How about that?
I'll
That would
shake
be
'em up.
wonderful. Sure. Well, you look something to look forward to, but you have delivered some amazing pieces for us this year. Tell us a little
Thank
bit
you.
about this wonderful piece that you have.
Well, that's on the Bighorns. And my style of painting is kind of a freestyle. I do a lot of changing, a lot of manipulation of value and color, and a lot of arbitrary color. I like to keep it just as creative and interesting as I can, and say as much as I can in one large stroke.
Yeah, it's obvious, a pine tree. I mean, it's not until you get up real close that you actually see that there are very simple but very purposeful strokes in everything that you've done in that piece.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely fun. That's a great thing. The first thing that drew my eye were those wonderful blue flowers that you have down there.
Yeah, that's springtime.
Absolutely, I recognize it. That's a marvelous piece. Well, here this
Thank
looks
you.
like this must be summertime.
Oh, that is a thunderhead. Yeah, that's something I have done a lot of those over the years, and it's just amazing to see a huge thunderhead going through the sky, and it's just amazing to see the influence of light and things in it, and it's hard to explain, but it always leaves quite an impression.
I say it's a remarkable, striking piece too, because even with the stone and the fracturing that you have in the stone, you do it with simple strokes again, but it conveys so much.
Yeah, well, thank you. That's what I try to capture.
Absolutely. Well, let's move on to some other wonderful pieces that we have. And this is almost like, this is similar to the one that you did before, but entirely different, of course.
And again, it's on the Bighorn. And one thing about the Bighorn, you can sit in one place and paint 3 or 4 pictures. Sometimes they turn out a little bit alike, and these two did. I just added the waterfall there instead of the flowers. And like I said, I invent a lot just to experiment with how far I can take it and what I can come up with. And I like the big juicy paint strokes. In both of those pieces, you'll notice there's an eagle. And I always get up on the Bighorn, you see birds and eagles flying around in the sky, and just give you a very respectful sense for the freedom we have overlooking that area.
Wonderful. And again, very simple and just it's remarkable. You get everything that you can see how alive that eagle is soaring there through the sky, and maybe 3 or 4 brush strokes.
Yep.
Amazing.
Minimal number of brush strokes.
Absolutely.
This
one looks like this one. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, sometimes it seems like there's less work in it, but it's a pretty accident-prone way to paint. like Bob Ross says, you got to have some happy little accidents once in a while, but then you have to recognize them and leave them.
Absolutely. Well, it doesn't look like you had any accidents in this next piece. This is incredibly detailed.
Yeah.
I think this is remarkable. I mean, it captures an amazing scene.
Well, thank you. That was an interesting piece to do, and I was happy and somewhat surprised at how it turned out, because it was a painting that was done relatively quickly. I think I did that in one day.
One day.
Yeah.
Remarkable. Yeah, I mean, you got the brush strokes for the grass in the foreground, the
Yeah.
simple but effective strokes again for the pine trees. It's remarkable. From a distance, it doesn't look like you. This looks like this was a painting that took you much longer to do.
Well, a good old ratty brush is good for painting pine trees.
Absolutely wonderful.
Well, thank you.
Denny, this is wonderful. Thank you very much for joining us yet again for the Western Art Show and Sale. It's been a real pleasure talking to you.
Well, thank you. And it's been a privilege to hear all the other artists talk about their work. It's been a good study in art. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you again.
Well, thank you, Mike, for those great interviews. And next, we're going to move on with Carmen. And Carmen is going to talk to Mr. Gary.
Cameron, where am I headed?
Gary is going to be
Gary Huber.
Mike's
Yes.
father. There he
Yes,
is.
of course. Well, good evening and welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. So glad to be here. Are you
We're
guys
happy
holding
to
up
have
pretty
you.
well? You've been going for quite a while now.
We have, and we just rang the bell a little bit ago, so that's very exciting.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going great.
It is. So you have a lot of beautiful pieces here, varying sizes, which I think is so great. We hear a lot like, I don't have any more room on my wall, but surely you have room for this gem, Edge of the Dawn. Sorry.
Well, I hope so. It's a subject, I have two pieces that are kind of in that same genre of the fall colors. Here in the foothills of the Bighorns, where I live in Buffalo, Wyoming, you often get a cross between the seasons. You still have your fall color down on the flats where you've got your cottonwoods and lots of shrubs along the rivers and creeks, and then suddenly a big storm blows in, and the contrast between those blue skies, the reflections in the water, the crystal snow clinging to every little branch, and then those leaves popping out. It's irresistible to me. I do it every year, go out there and I just never get enough of it. I really can't. It's a wonderful time. And, what I'm trying to do is just convey an emotion, I guess, a feeling that I have of just exuberance, because when I'm out there walking around, or like the little one, painting right out there on site, it's almost, explodes my heart. It's just so exciting. And I hope people react to it the same way. They seem to do it. I'll mention that I kind of get involved in every aspect of the paintings that I do. I make the panels, which are archival, should last a million years or more. I make some of my own pastels, just to try and get exactly the right colors I'm looking for. And then I think it all comes together, when I'm out there painting. It's just a really exciting thing.
Sure does. And I like these little bits of hope here in the meadow.
I try to kind of focus on happy things. There's so much other stuff in the world that, I think we need to have things on our walls that take us to a really good place. That painting you're looking at there is a place I call Bear Meadow. I'm sure it doesn't have a real name. You can't see it from the road. It's in Grand Teton National Park. Must have been about 10 years ago by now. I pulled over to take a picture, of Mountain Moran, and I heard a scratching noise and looked over to the right, and there was a bear, and I think it was a grizzly. I couldn't really tell. It was hidden by some bushes, but it was apparently ripping apart a log, looking for his lunch. And I just waited patiently until she moved off, and then I went over to see what they'd been doing, and yeah, of course it was a log and little grubs and things. And then I looked up and I saw this beautiful meadow. It was July, the flowers were just intensely blooming, and you could see off into the distance, and it was a scene that just almost painted itself, because it would just lead you back into layers of depth. So I've been painting this scene every time I get to the Tetons. It never gets old for me. This is a studio version of that. And I change it up every time. Sometimes I make a vertical, sometimes horizontal. The flowers are different from year to year. But I still love that composition, basically, of, you know, the angles that lead you zigzagging back. And, you know, the atmosphere is always beautiful there. So there's a sense of mystery of, you know, what's around the corner. Maybe that bear is up there around the corner. We should be careful, but go for a walk and see what you find. It's always rewarding.
Right. It's definitely a painting you want to walk into for sure.
Thank you.
And what about Yellowstone Allure?
Yeah, this is another subject that I keep coming back to. Yellowstone is a place that we visit at least once a year. And one of my favorite areas is up at the headwaters of the Gibbon River. And it kind of parallels the road between Canyon Village and Norris Geyser Basin. And there's a number of places that you can, you know, pull over, hop out of the car, go down into the meadow, and, you know, see this, you know, this beautiful little, just a narrow little creek at that point. But the way the creek winds through these clumps of grasses, and then the, you know, lodgepole and spruce coming in on the margins of the scene, and there's always atmosphere. I mean, it's a magical place. I'll go back as often as I can and paint all these different little scenes that are all similar but different, and just capture a moment in time. And I think we've all been to places like that, or wished we had been. And it's just another reward of getting out of the car and not seeing everything from inside the car. Get out, hike into that meadow, and enjoy it.
Exactly. Well, you've definitely captured that magic here with these pieces tonight. Thank you so much, Gary Huber. We appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed it. Good
Have
luck
a great
with the rest
evening.
of the show.
Thank you. Best of luck to you. Cameron?
Well, Carmen, the next piece that we have up on deck, you know, this artist always makes me feel like it's Christmas in July, and I'm very happy to welcome Lindsay Bittner-Grant to our show.
Hi everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can. How are you?
Good.
Long way. Go back the other way. It's right next to Gary's pieces on the right hand side.
Here we are.
There we are. Sorry, I swear I've been around the block, I promise.
No
So
worries.
Lindsay, I wanted to say congratulations. There's a lot of buzz about Sleigh Bells Ring here. Everybody loves just the happiness and the joy that you've captured, and that you have a woman driver.
Yes, and she was fabulous. This was the day that my husband and I went up to Granby, and I did the photo shoot for this, and she just worked with us and really put those horses through the paces, put on a great show for us the day we were there. And I couldn't believe how the dog just he took charge and led the way. And this was just a really fun experience. And, you know, it's fun even looking at it because it's been so hot, you know, in the 90s, and that day that we were there was extremely cold. And so trying to operate the camera, that was a challenging day, and I was right in front of that team. Now the painting itself was just really exciting to do, and I had a lot of fun with it because the background I took, we actually went on the sleigh ride with the team in front, and so as we went down into the woods, I took lots of photo references, and I utilized, you know, many different photo references from that day to create this painting and come up with the composition. It just was a really, really fun time. And the painting actually has lots of layers under it. I scraped down the background twice and changed it totally. And so all the scraping underneath and the colors that were underneath, if you really look at it up close or showing through, there's lots of orange showing through. And also the painting has lots of texture in it that just happened by mistakes, happy mistakes, you know, like someone else said, Bob Ross says all the time. And, you know, that's how the painting came together. And the bells are actually on the horses. You can see them on the sides. And so they were actually ringing, you know, as that sleigh was moving along. Those sleighs are really, really long and heavy. You can't really see them, you know, see it in that picture, how the depth of it. But they're pulling a pretty big load there. Those are as a working Belgian team, and they were a new team. She was training them, and they wanted to move. They did not want to just walk. They wanted to run. So that was a thrilling day, and it was thrilling to to do the painting. Lots of sketches happened as the painting evolved, and you know, I played with putting the dog in and not putting it in, and then I actually changed the pose on the dog because the pose that he was actually in didn't show him off as well, and I wanted to really highlight you know his legs and the tongue hanging out and all of that. So it was just a fun composition to come up with and fun to relive the experience of it.
Well, you can certainly see that joy in that painting for sure.
Yeah, that was up in Granby at I believe Snow Mountain Ranch is up in Granby at that YMCA up there, and they do wagon rides, sleigh rides. So that was a lot of fun.
Very cool. Well, and this is Paint Team Power.
Yeah, this painting, I saw this team at an auction, a draft horse auction, and boy, they were just so strikingly beautiful in their form and their development, and they you could tell they were a working team, and they had worked a long time together, and it became about, you know, for me to do that painting, the shapes, not only the light and shadow shapes, but just the shapes in the paint horse. And I carried that through into the background, decided to make the background more, keep it more abstract and focus on those really exciting, beautiful horses. And that's a 9x12, the painting size actually is. So to put all the detail in that tack in, I was using the side of a palette knife. Actually, I used the side of a credit card to get, you know, to get the absolute straight lines, and then I'd scrape the paint down. And I had a lot of fun putting this one together, and it came together really quickly. And it was just that team was just so absolutely beautiful. You just don't see paint horses. I believe it's probably a Percheron mix, or you know, but you know, in the draft, with the draft form, you don't see that many paint horses like that, and they were just striking. So I have a real passion for the draft breeds. I just love them.
Well, that certainly comes through. Over here we have Calf Savvy and Love Being Hitched.
Yeah, so Love Being Hitched. So Love Being Hitched is another Belgian team. And that Belgian team, they had worked together a long, long time. And so they were inseparable. And every time they stopped, they were kissing each other and nosing each other. And they just, you know, you could tell they just didn't like being separated. They moved together. They moved in stride together. And so that name was so fitting. I'm wondering how many of us can still say that after we've been quarantined with our partner for 3 months.
That's right. Oh, shoot.
But that background, again, I wanted to keep it abstract and lots of pink showing through from the tack. I brought that through in the background as well.
Mm-hmm.
So to focus more on the light hitting the manes. You know, those horses had amazing manes and tails, and those draft breeds do anyway. But I love the fact that when they're not being shown and they're actually a working team, they don't trim them. They're just totally natural, and it's just real fun painting those.
Well, you can certainly see that fun and that their kindred spiritness in that painting.
Yeah, they were a fun team to watch. Yeah, so this painting, this quarter horse just absolutely was stunning to watch. So the team, you know, this tie down team was a competitor in the Cheyenne Frontier Days. This is Cheyenne Frontier Days. So I, kind of went abstract a little bit with the background, but, I had to question it because I was looking at my photo references and they're all, just mounting on the right side, which is the norm, I guess, for tie down roping. And that was a little trivial fact that I learned in doing this painting. But this particular quarter horse was stopping on a dime, and his form was just beautiful to watch. His chest and his the way he just slid to a stop. It was just an incredible run that those two had. And so that was, we'll miss seeing that this year. So there's a bit of the rodeo.
But next year. Well, thank you for sharing your work with us, Lindsay Whitner-Graham.
Well, thank you for all the work you've
appreciate
done.
being here tonight. My pleasure. It's my great pleasure. Have a great evening.
You too. This is great.
It's been real fun.
It is.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Julie, tonight. And, next up, Lindsay, I'm sorry. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Lindsay. Up next, we have Julie, who's going to be interviewed by Mike. And I think, Julie, one of the questions that everyone has on their mind is how to pyrograph paper.
Yep, it's the medium. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. The medium's actually called pyrography. And if you think about the word, it's pyromaniac, fire. I kind of call it painting with heat. And it's a really unusual medium. It is something that I'm very passionate about and love doing. Basically, everything that I do is burned, but I also incorporate acrylic and coffee and other wet mediums to kind of loosen things up and develop my piece.
Well, it is wonderful. Julie, this is Mike Castle again. Thank you for coming and joining us. Yeah, I was looking at your pieces earlier and I was just like, how do you do that without scorching the wood? I mean, this particular piece, Lone Star, is just remarkable. You have these wonderful grains in the wood. I mean, it's a beautiful piece of wood to begin with. And then everything that you've done to put that animal, the steer or the cow, on this particular piece, it's remarkable. It almost looks photographic, and you burn this in by hand.
I do. I burn everything by hand, painstakingly, calluses and sometimes a few burns, but it all pays off. It's all quite worth it because that's how much I love doing it. Yeah, that piece in particular was actually commissioned by an architectural firm in Montreal, design architectural firm who wanted me to do 2 originals for the purpose of a new Marriott Residence Inn, a 33-story luxury Residence Inn, Marriott Residence Inn in Calgary. And they wanted it in the theme of their Boots district, which is kind of the roots of the district there is very cowboy and Western. So I showed them a lot of reference that I had to work with. And we went back and forth for a while, and they chose a wild horse and then also this longhorn calf. And so I got to work, and in 30 days, I did both pieces, and I ended up licensing both works to them, and they used them on all 33 stories of that hotel as the directional signage. So when you came off the elevator, you saw where your room was and everything else. So they were actually printed on wood in 5x5 panels. So that was quite exciting. Yeah, that was a fun job.
But they couldn't match what you did. You burned it on and they printed it.
That's correct. Yeah, exactly. They printed it on wood as well as I created it on wood. So I've seen pictures of it, and I'm pretty impressed with how they did it. Pretty amazing. Yeah, that was a really fun project.
I wish people could come and see this, and I hope they do, to take a look at this stuff up close. It is just amazing.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, well, this is monochromatic. This particular piece right here, I mean, all the colors, obviously, you can see how this is burned wood, but my goodness, when you start looking at this,
that's a real departure, isn't it?
Yeah, it is quite a departure.
Well, yeah.
It's again, the pyrography.
Right, exactly. Yeah, the owls, the great horned owls are actually burned. I had this piece going for quite some time, many months, before I figured out where it was going to go. I kind of developed my art organically. I don't have a roadmap per se. Sometimes I do, especially with commissions, but often, most of the time, I like to just kind of build it and kind of surprise myself and surprise the medium and see where it can go. You know, once upon a time ago, when I first started working in this medium and discovering what I could do with it, I kept it all very literal and very tight, and you know, and just did things very realistically, kind of traditionally, you know, in this medium. And you know, years later, I started having just an aching for evolving and moving outside the lines. And so I got a little crazy. And this one was really interesting because I've been wanting to kind of evolve my work in a more loose, kind of surprising, unstructured kind of manner. And when this one was evolving, and I wasn't quite sure what to do with it, I thought, you know what? This was right when the COVID virus started appearing on the scene. And I was just kind of up in arms like everybody else, you know, what's going on here? What, you know, so many question marks, so much confusion. And I kind of expressed that confusion on this piece. This piece, unlike the one that you just showed, is done on paper, which is, most of my work is actually created on paper. It's a very heavyweight watercolor paper. And that's what I do. I burn the paper, it never burns through. And then I add my paint to it. And in this case, I just kind of threw it around and just thought, well, you know, I'm not going to worry about it too much. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But I kind of like the way it evolved, and I kind of like the structure of it. And I also like the kind of loose feel and the not knowing kind of what's going on there about it too.
It is a remarkable piece. And then of course the owls are serene through everything. I think that's just great.
Thank you. Yeah, I love those great horned owls. I witness them quite a bit when I'm out all year round. I moved out here to Colorado just to be near the wildlife that I represent in my art, and I took my art full time as a career, and I teach and everything else. But you know, but being able to observe these animals in person is just such an enormous pleasure and honor, because you get to observe them, see what their behavior is, see how they react to each other, and just learn so much. That my work is as much about the story of these animals as it is applying a medium on a canvas.
Amazing. Well, the owls are amazing to see. This piece looks like it wasn't an experiment. It looked like you knew exactly what you were doing to begin with. And again, it's the interaction between the animals.
It is very much, yeah. It's during the elk rut, and you're right, and a little bit wrong in that it is more planned out, but it actually turned into two pieces from one. The bull elk on the right, chasing the cow elk, next to it was actually on the left part of that paper on the scene. So I thought, you know what, I kind of was playing around in my computer system and trying to figure out what to do with this. It just didn't feel right to me for some reason. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to slice this piece in half and see what happens when I put one image on the other side of it. And for me, the compositions just looked better. The story worked a little better. The flow and the movement of the animals for me worked a little better. And so that's how it turned out. There are actually two pieces behind that frame. So I really enjoyed working on that. It took quite a while for me to figure out, but that's kind of how I work, kind of haphazardly, and well, let's just see what happens is kind of the way I approach my work.
Oh,
Not
that's
always a good
remarkable.
idea, but some work and some don't.
I guess somebody else, I think it was Mr. Neville, who said sometimes you just have to go with the happy accident.
Yeah, you do. That's all my work is a lot of happy accidents.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, looking at so many of these pieces, you certainly could fool me. And then what about this guy?
You know, I have a real affection for that guy, that moose. There was a big bull moose in Rocky Mountain National Park that I was kind of eyeballing as he was kind of bedded down at a lake. And I thought, you know, he's got to get up eventually. And he did. About 20 minutes later, after just kind of staring at him for a while at a great distance, he moved kind of fast. I mean, I was very, very impressed with the speed of how he moved. And he went up a hill and over a hill, and I kind of rushed over with my car to try to find him again. And sure enough, he was moving through a stream of water, just kind of looking right at me. And I got a lot of shots, and I watched him. I just kind of observed him for a while to see what he was up to and what he was interested in doing, and trying not to spook him, because when he saw me and I saw him, we were, you know, surprisingly close. I was safe, but still, you know, I didn't expect to see him that close. And he was kind of emerging from some greenery behind him. And again, I wanted to represent him realistically, like I do with, you know, most of my burns and my animals, but I also wanted to capture some of the abstraction going on behind him, which is how I came to incorporate all that green and just kind of a mottled kind of look and feel to him. So I was actually kind of pleased with that one.
Yeah, I'm glad I did not. I've never seen that close.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, I've been charged by a moose before at a whole different place, and that was just earth-shattering. You know, the hairs will stand up and your heart will beat so fast you don't even know what's coming. But nobody wants to be charged by a bull moose, I promise you that.
It certainly has a dynamic energy to it. And,
oh, thank you.
It's amazing capture. Julie, these are wonderful pieces.
Thank you so much, Mike.
Absolutely. Thank you for staying with us tonight. And it has
Well,
been a real delight.
I appreciate that, and I really, really appreciate your staff taking such great care at putting on the show, making it happen in these difficult times. I think I can speak for all the artists where we just really, really appreciate you guys very, very much, all your effort.
You make it easy for us. It really is wonderful.
Thank you, Mike. Good luck with the show.
Thank you, and good luck to you too.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Julie. And
thank you so much.
So we move from one awesome medium to another, and I'm so happy to welcome an arts advocate in Georgia Roswell, and Carmen will be talking to her.
Hi, Georgia. Good evening. How
Hi, Carmen.
You?
I'm good.
It's so nice to see you. Are you in the studio?
I am.
Well, what are you working on?
Well,
uh-oh.
Oh.
There you are. That's so cool. It's so exciting to see you there.
I think I accidentally muted Georgia. Georgia, unmute button real quick.
Try. Nope.
Okay. Hold on. Let me
mute myself.
Okay, now we're good.
How's that?
Good. Awesome. So I'm so excited that you're here tonight. Congratulations. You have sold 2 pieces, Red Canyon Rim. And and I'll admit I bought Hiking Crystal Reservoir.
Yay!
So I was very excited to put my sticker on it this morning. So
thank you.
What I love about your work is how you capture movement, and it really just, you can just really see it, and it has such a vibrancy to it.
Thank you. I really pay attention to the line work as I'm laying down the strips of fabric, because it's really important to the entire piece of which way things are going. Leads the eye.
Exactly. And it's so pleasing to the eye. And every time you look at it, you can see something new. Tell me a little bit about your process.
Well, this is the way I started working when I moved to Wyoming, and I have a long history with the fiber. but formal education in painting and drawing. So it seems to be like the blending of the two sides of my artistic education. So I really enjoyed working this way, and it really came about as a result of looking at some rock stratification and a road cut, and just deciding I was going to do that in fabric, and I was going to do it in old clothes. So I have a whole bunch of old clothes in my studio, and I cut them up and do it layer by layer.
So that's an interesting point about your work, Georgia. So is everything like recycled, the material and the frame?
Yes, material is all recycled. I decided I wasn't really interested in buying new, so I buy, thrift store clothes. People give me things. I take things out of my own closet, and then the smaller pieces are recycled drawers. That piece we're showing now, somebody put drawers on my porch. That's a drawer from an old desk. The one you bought is a drawer from an old desk.
Well, with friends like those.
Yeah. I've had bags of clothes show up on my porch.
Oh, they certainly know you. What about Red
Yeah.
Canyon here?
My husband Dave and I went to a tour of the Carissa mine, and that was the first time I'd been in that area. The tour was really interesting, and then on our way back to Lander, we went by this area, and it was stunning. Of course, I had to get out and take pictures, even though the wind about blew me over. Yeah. So
well, you could definitely see the veracity of the wind here in this one.
Yeah.
Well, Georgia, congratulations on your success this evening. We're certainly always excited to see your work here at the art show.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thanks for staying up late and doing this interview with us. We appreciate it.
All right. And thank you, Carmen.
Have a great night.
All right, you too.
Well, thank you so much, Georgia, for joining us tonight, and it was great getting to talk to you. And next, I'm really excited to introduce someone who paints nostalgia, I think, for a lot of people who live in Wyoming. Jennifer Johnson is a new artist to us, and we're very excited to have her join the CFD family.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Woo! I just late, but let's get this going.
Absolutely.
I don't know.
Mike, he's going to be in the East Gallery.
Oh, well, we are just fighting to see who gets to do Jennifer.
Exactly. I mean, I've been looking at these pieces all night long. I'm saying, I'm hoping these are mine.
That's right. I keep trying to figure out a way to figure out how to buy cowboy bars. So.
Oh,
yeah.
Very good. Well, I think I heard Cameron call my name, so I think I'm going to take this one. This is great. Well, I am very happy to be talking to you, Jennifer. These pieces that you have up on the wall, they are so vivid. They're absolutely wonderful. And they're things that people in Wyoming know. They've been there. And I think you captured this, especially the neon essence of Wyoming. Fabulous.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So I wanted to do a theme for the show, and number one, it was Wyoming nostalgia, the landmarks of Wyoming, which here you're looking at the Cowboy Bar, which to give you a little bit of history, the $1 Million Cowboy Bar in Jackson Hole, Wyoming was established in 1937, and it was famous for dancing and live music. And it's hopefully going to be on one of the top 10 honky tonk venues. Of course, you don't see the Tetons like that. I went ahead and decided to move the mountains right behind the Tetons. So that's kind of my artistic, I don't want to say, I wanted to move the Tetons right behind the Cowboy. Two iconic landmarks. The Cowboy Bar it's almost like a human. You see the cowboy, everyone gets photos taken in front of it, and so it was kind of a fun piece.
It's the power of art. You can move mountains. It's fantastic.
I can move mountains wherever I want to. So that was a point on that piece.
That is really a fun piece. I love that. I have to tell you, my son and I used to go all over the state playing hockey, and I don't know how many times I've seen this on the streets of Sheridan. I think this piece is just absolutely marvelous.
Well, thank you. So that's, the Mint Bar in Sheridan, Wyoming, and that was established originally in 1907. And cowboys and ranchers would say, hey, I'll meet you at the Mint. And they would tell tall tales and tip back their beers or whiskey or whatever they had. And so it's a fun Wyoming landmark there in Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Yeah, it is a fun place. That's a neat capture. Yeah, again, just the light that you have here, the way that you captured the neon, it's like being there.
Yeah. So kind of fun. And again, I moved a couple mountains around, and but that's what you can do as an artist. You can choose to do whatever you want to make the composition perfect for whatever you want to do.
Absolutely. Well, you couldn't move mountains for the next one, but for people here in Cheyenne, they know this is like a taste of home for all of us. I think that's just great.
Well, thank you. This was a fun piece. And so I drove, when I was up there last year, drove by the Lincoln Theater. And again, back in the day, this was established in 1927. And it was considered one of the hot spots in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And one of the biggest events in history, and this is where I came up with this concept, was in 1964. They rolled out the red carpet for Cheyenne Autumn. And to name a few actors was James Stewart, Carol Baker, that sort of thing. And I kind of envisioned what it would have looked like in the heyday, making the neon really bright, through a T-Bird in there, 1965 T-Bird, and an old Chevy, so what would have it looked like back in the day? And I sort of am trying to bring back that nostalgic feel to the Lincoln Theater there in Cheyenne, Wyoming.
I like the glow that you caught on the marquee reflected on the front of the building. I mean, you still see that now. It's just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. And so hopefully it's up and going again here soon. That was kind of a big draw to doing this piece, is, focusing on vintage Wyoming hotspots. And again, that was, the Sheridan and Jackson Hole, and then here in Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Well, I would like to congratulate you. Somebody really liked that piece. So congratulations, you made a sale on that one. I can't wait to see where this one goes.
Well, thank you so much. You guys have been working so hard, and it's been fantastic listening to the other artists. I've really enjoyed my evening listening to artists that I may or may have not met before, and it's lovely hearing about their pieces and their work as well.
Jennifer, it has been wonderful that you've been able to stick with us as late as it is. I really do appreciate this. Congratulations on your work.
Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for joining us tonight. And we are getting ready to wrap up the night. And Carmen is standing by at our alumni/legacy wall in the East Gallery. And we will... and we do have one of our alumni artists on the line with us tonight, Mr. Wayne Bays. We are very glad to have Wayne join us again for the Western Art Show.
Good evening, Mr. Bays. Thank you so much for being here this evening.
Well,
we certainly appreciate it.
Well, it's such an honor to be here, and it was such an honor to be able to come to the Cheyenne show every summer. Our children kind of grew up. That was the highlight of the summer for them, to come and go back out to the show in the Shellback Ranch. And we really enjoyed the show through the years. I was in the very first one up till 5 or 6 years ago, but it was
That's
one of the
amazing.
highlights of the year. Yes.
Yeah, so you were mentioning the Shellback Ranch as one of your highlights of your CFD art show experiences.
Yes, the Morris family and we made lots of friends. Of course, April and TV Jones, and Jack and Tuda Cruz, and we still have Tuda's cookie cookbook.
Right, with the cookie cutters too. It's
Yeah,
so
cookie cutters.
delightful. It's really cute.
We really enjoyed Cheyenne. It was the atmosphere and, of course, the Frontier Days, and it was really special.
Well, you are really special to us, and we appreciate you sending in a piece of art this year. We really wanted to honor our past and welcome you to be a part of the show this year.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. This is a cowboy. He was supposed to be leading the remuda, but his young horse was kind of reluctant to cross the creek. So he finally got him across, and he's trying to catch up now and get ahead of the leaders. So he's
playing catch up.
Playing catch up now, and he's trying to get around them and head them in the way that he wants them to go. So he's coming down Olympia Canyon. That's Olympia Creek behind him.
Exciting. Well, it's just a beautiful piece, and you can really see all of that movement in there. And it's been such a pleasure to talk to you this evening. And I sincerely want to thank you for your long history with the show and being such an important founding member. Thank you so much.
Well, thank y'all. Appreciate it.
Have a good evening.
Well, we want to thank everyone who tuned in tonight, and thank you to all the artists who joined us tonight. And it was such a blast to get to work with all of you to build this show, and to work with the Western Art Show Committee, who worked all year long. I think a total of 13 months. So we started playing this show a month before our last show, the 39th show opened. So thank you all to everyone who helped build the show, from the volunteers to the museum staff to the artists. So thank you all for tuning in tonight, and we hope that we'll see you at the museum soon. We are open 24/7. We are open 7 days a week from 9 to 5, and we hope you all have a great evening.
Thanks, Cameron. Great job hosting.